Ready? Play.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening as it is here in Central Europe. It's just 1 minute past 9, although I think where you are, Shrihari, it's somewhat later, right?
It's 1 minute past midnight. Yes, exactly 12:01 a.m. here.
Yeah.
At this point, either I'm a night owl or an insomniac, whichever way you want to look at it.
We have sort of commentators spread across sort of several time zones. We've got Nick, of course, in London on GMT, the oldest time zone of all, arguably. Obviously, me in Central Europe on that time zone. You, of course, a couple of hours or 3 hours further on in Qatar. You're in Dubai, right? I keep
Yes.
Dubai. And obviously, we've got quite a few of our contributors in North America, basically. So, and they're spread across North America, across the 2 or 3 time zones there. How you doing, Nick, by the way?
I'm doing well, thanks, John. Yeah, it's been an interesting day of tennis, it has to be said. If you're in the crowd in Turin, you had a real treat today with 3 absolutely epics. And the singles so far has been absolutely fascinating yesterday and today. So I'm very excited for this match.
Nick, I'm glad you mentioned the other 2 matches. I mean, I say the other 2 in addition to the singles match between Medi and Ruby that we commentated on earlier. I know the first doubles match, of course, went to a deciding set tiebreak, and the world number ones emerged victors over K and K. What happened in the second doubles match then?
That also went to a deciding tiebreak.
Okay.
In which Mektic and Pavic, the number ones from last year, ended up winning it. So, yeah, it's a very packed doubles field. And if you're a British tennis fan, there's 3 Brits taking part. So, a sign yet again, that the Brits may not necessarily be having a lot of singles success, but we produce some really good doubles players. If anyone's interested in it, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll talk a bit about doubles at various points, but I do think we should give doubles a bit more love. I remember when I was growing up, doubles was not far behind singles in terms of popularity for various reasons, but for one reason or another, it has slipped by, and really all the focus nowadays, unfortunately, is on the singles. But who knows? Maybe there'll be a renaissance. I just think maybe 1 or 2 things need to be tweaked. I like this idea of 2 sets and a deciding set tiebreak. I do think 5-set doubles largely should be dispensed with at the majors as well. But that's a debate for another day. Listen, while we've got Shrihari here, because we are going to be losing him for the front of house appearance, if you like, during the match. He'll be pulling strings backstage. Let's get his thoughts on this evening's match. Shrihari, it's Novak's to lose, right?
I would say so. Like we discussed just before going live, obviously 3 matches that have panned out so far have pretty much been upsets, at least on paper. The player who you expected to win didn't win. But still, I would just put that down to coincidence. If you look at this as a matchup, Djokovic is a lot going on for him that he would favor. Historically speaking as well, even the matches that have gone really close has been Novak who is edged out. Of course, that could change at some point. But I think, these conditions are ones that Djokovic would prefer a lot more than Tsitsipas would. That's not in any way to sleep on Steph, because he did come really close in Bercy, pushing Novak to a deciding set tiebreaker after what looked like a routine straight sets win for some time for Djokovic. It was 6-2, 2-1 up, half a chance to break for 3-1. Steph started to play some amazing tennis from that point. So I would still say it is 65-35 in favor of Novak.
That sounds about right to me. I think that would have narrowed a little bit as I see Djokovic sporting the all green outfit this evening. I think the odds would have narrowed a little bit compared to, say, a couple of weeks ago. I just think because Steph pushed Novak a lot more than many, including me, expected. I didn't see especially once Novak won that first set in Paris. I didn't see that match panning out the way it did. Did Steph's level surprise you in that match, Shrihari?
The level itself did not, but the timing at which he raised his level was quite surprising, at least for that match, and considering their past couple of matches that they played this year, of course. Rome, of course, he was up a break in the second set, had chances to go 5-1 and half a chance to take the set 6-2, but it's not meant to be. Astana was really not close. And the last 3 sets, I might add, of their RG final, Steph didn't even sniff a break point there. So, yes, I have mentioned before that Steph is one of the most dangerous players when he's behind in the scoreline. So it didn't surprise me all that much. But considering the conditions and considering how amazing Novak Djokovic is on indoor hard courts, it did surprise me that the match did extend as far as it did, from what looked like it was another clean win for Novak, and he was charging towards the final. But I should mention on another tangent, I don't know what to say about Djokovic's outfit here.
Oh, okay.
All green. It seems like something he should have worn at the Australian Open. He did wear he did wear this exact same polo in Dubai. I remember that. It was the white and green sort of combination that he had. It's the same kit. So I'm just curious as to why he's wearing that. Blue would have made more sense. Blue or black, it's usually the colors he goes for during this tournament, especially. So yeah, Steph's outfit is really good, I should say. It's probably sort of the same color palette as Felix's, but yeah, obviously we're not here to talk about outfits. But I know
it's fine. In fact, right. I'm glad you mentioned it, Shuri, because actually I think you and I are in disagreement. I'm not a fan of this Adidas outfit either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think
Shuri posted about it.
Is all right. It is actually nice. I mean, being a fan of black and blue, that combination, I do like it. However, this year as a whole, Adidas has had pretty much of a train wreck as far as outfits go. But anyway, the graphic there showing Djokovic with 90 titles, that's pretty insane. Just 2 behind Rafael Nadal, probably. Whether he gets one closer, we'll have to see. Still a lot of tennis to be played out.
Yeah. Definitely. Listen, Nick, let's get back to you. What are your thoughts on tonight's match?
I must say with Shuhri, really. I would say that Djokovic is the favourite. He does dominate the matchup. I think Tsitsipas, he's very good at exploiting Tsitsipas's weaknesses, particularly on the backhand. However, Tsitsipas's performance a couple of weeks ago, and he's not unbeaten against Djokovic. He has beaten Djokovic twice, albeit very early on in their matchup. When he's confident and he's firing, he can beat anyone. And I think Tsitsipas will probably be maybe hoping that he could avenge that defeat to Djokovic. He's got a shot at world number 1. He's motivated. Let's see what the pressure does for him. And I'm also influenced by the potential narrative of having 4 upsets in the opening 4 matches of the ATP finals. I'm here for a chaos tournament. So why not? So yeah, I think Tsitsipas should fancy his chances, but I might give the edge to Novak, but I think he'll go 3.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would give the edge to Novak as well. I think the 65-35 suggestion from Shahuri makes sense. The only thing with a chaotic tournament, though, and this is to both of you, is I love a bit of chaos, but I think there is a point at which I often think about this in football, that when you've got a World Cup, it's great to see a few upsets, but you don't want a Brazil-Costa Rica final. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I think the field is strong enough overall in this tournament that we may not get to that kind of scenario. Regardless of who ends up making the final amongst these 8 players, we should have, or even the last 4, really, we should really be in for some blockbuster tennis nonetheless, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the head-to-head there very much in favor of Novak. The 2 wins from Stefanos. Somebody will have to tell me when and where they were. Shuhuri?
2018 Toronto. That was their first meeting. Steph won 6-3, 6-7, 6-3. And the third meeting in Shanghai, 2019. Steph coming back from a set down, beating him in the quarterfinal, 3-6, 7-5, 6-3. And that is also, funnily, when Steph took a lead in their head-to-head series, 2-1. And then from there, it's been 8 in a row for Djokovic. Obviously, not as one-sided as the statistic itself would probably mislead you into thinking, because
Okay.
they had quite a few close matches. It was Rome, obviously 2021 quarterfinal. You had the match at Paris Bercy a week ago. You had those two Roland Garros quarterfinals, not close exactly, but they did go to 5 sets. So yeah, they have had some, battles in the past. And as we speak, Tsitsipas is about to serve first and begin this match, which
He
means
is.
I'll dip out, and
Great.
I'll be, like you said, pulling the strings. Hopefully, not pulling my hairs out. So yeah,
as
I'll see you
a
guys soon, probably at the end of the first set.
a backhand shot from Novak means it's love 15 on the Tsitsipas serve. Take care, Shriri, and we'll speak to you soon. Nick, listen, Novak starting the match as he means to go on.
For sure. I mean, look, comes up firing on the return. You wouldn't expect anything else from Novak. Yeah, I think we're in for a good one. I'm interested to see how this second point goes. It has to be said, although Novak's return is firing, Tsitsipas is serving pretty well. As he gets that second point of the match with a very good forehand that Novak can't get back over the net.
Listen, I think there's two things to take from the previous match, which I think was probably one of the best, if not the best, indoor match we've had during this period of the year. There's a positive for Tsitsipas, which is that he was so close. That tie break, he was a mini breakup. I would also argue that perhaps there were some shots from him in that tiebreaker, which perhaps he should have, as he goes long there with the forehand, that he probably should have won, which, is a good thing from his perspective, that he's in that position, that he is, possibly in charge of that tiebreak at various points, and certainly in charge of the points, that he's there. But I don't know if Novak will give him quite as many opportunities today as he did in Paris. And of course, Novak did a similar thing in that he obviously lost in 3 sets to Holger-Rune, but Holger-Rune was just more ruthless than Tsitsipas, I felt. Listen, it's 15-40 already on the Tsitsipas serve. So Novak already, as I said, starting well. It's interesting to see Mark Philippoussis there in the box for Tsitsipas. Where do you stand, Nick, on the Tsitsipas coaching situation?
I mean, where do you stand on where do I stand on the coaching situation? I mean, in terms of the relationship, the fact his father's still involved, or
I mean, just in general. I mean, let me put my points over, and then we'll come to you. It does seem to be a narrative in tennis, and understandably so. Over the years, we've seen so many parent and child, occasionally uncle or auntie and child as well, if you like, coaching situations. The thing is with Tsitsipas is then you have, situations where his mother's appearing randomly at press conferences. We do see sort of the parent-son arguments between the two, which we do see between other coaches and their player, but it just seems to be a little bit more unbecoming or more uncomfortable when you know the relationship between the two. I don't know. And then additionally, and maybe you can address this point if you feel more comfortable, Nick, is the fact that he is chopping and changing his coach every, few months. I mean, I know he's had Enquist as he dumps a forehand into the net and Novak gets an early break. He is chopping and changing the coach quite frequently. We've seen it with Shapovalov. We've seen it with other players as well. When I say coach, I mean, there's always one person who's there, his father, and there's always some other randomer, not randomer, but, somebody else alongside them. And I don't know if that instability has any effect on Stefanos on the court.
I can see that. I mean, the reality is that most tennis players chop and change coaches all the time. I think even the big three, they don't change coaches every few months, but they'll have a coaching change every few years. I don't know. I understand that it's better to have a stable coach. I think the situation with Tsitsipas, I think the clashes are with the father, probably, rather than with the player. I think the thing is Tsitsipas is trying to unlock something, but the coaches he's hired are very much about maximizing his strengths rather than necessarily working on his weaknesses or getting him to play better in a certain way, which is maximizing his more high aggression, assertive nature, rather than necessarily trying to improve the variety or the defense, which arguably might give him a bit more of a foothold. So I think a lot of it may be coming down to they're getting coaches in, they're then telling them to work on areas that don't actually need that much work on, and then they get the blame when it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I do think, by the way, if Novak was to emerge the victor today, and he became the first player, I would say, of all the matches to kind of win his match. Oh, that's an excellent shot from Novak. 30 love. He's only lost 2 points so far. But yeah, if he was to be the first favorite to win their match, if you like, in that, I would suggest that all three have been somewhat surprising results. If Rafa's probably was more 50-50, but I think the nature of the defeat surprised many. I do think that would put Novak in an even stronger position in terms of the tournament. I mean, I went into the tournament thinking the odds on him, he was the favorite, clear favorite, but I still thought that he might not win it. But you know what? If he was the only one of the four matches to win, if you like, that would really cement his favorite position for me. I mean, basically, you win your first match, and you're the favorite in the group, as Djokovic is. You've got 1 foot in the semi-final because you've only got really to win one of your next two to qualify.
Yeah, you do. I was thinking actually much the same thing, John. I think a win here for Novak Djokovic makes him heavy favourite, not just for the group, but for the title, because all his other big rivals for the event have got off to pretty poor starts. We had Felix Auger-Aliassime losing to Casper Ruud unexpectedly yesterday. We had Daniel Medvedev going down to Andrei Rublev today in a matchup that's traditionally favoured Daniel Medvedev in conditions that would favour Daniel Medvedev normally. And then Djokovic is playing potentially one of his other big rivals, Tsitsipas, right now. If this continues as it looks, he's going to win this match. It's very early stages though, so let's not get carried away. And then there's Rafael Nadal, who's just not himself. Maybe people who are fans of Rublev or Fritz or Roode might be annoyed with me for writing them off, but I think they would be much more surprise winners. So yeah, at the minute, Djokovic is looking, even now, in much better shape compared to everyone else. And I think after this first couple of days, he is heavily title favourite for would it be a sixth ATP final title? Yeah, sixth. Yeah, tied with Roger Federer.
Yeah, good point. Well made. Which of the three matches was, in terms of the result or the nature of the match, which one was the most surprising for you of the three?
Has to be Rude beating Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, Felix was looking so good indoors. Maybe he might have run out of a little steam a bit, but you would imagine he would be the favourite in the matchup and in the conditions against Casper Ruud. Maybe there's something about the matchup that Ruud can expose Felix's backhand a bit more compared to other players, and maybe that's why he's comfortable in that matchup. But I still think, straight sets loss, it's not unrecoverable for Felix, but it's a worrying opening sign. And
I agree.
I think that that's the most surprising result.
The way Fritz played as well, and that will be Felix's third match, of course. The depending on how the next couple of matches go depends. But the way Fritz played yesterday, if Fritz plays like he did yesterday, and Felix plays like he did yesterday, then Fritz is winning that match too. So yeah, I agree. For me, that's the same. I think some people may have been surprised, and I was surprised by probably Rublev winning. I had Medvedev to win that, but I just thought that Rublev has been playing not so badly. I think the distance he's been getting in competition recently may have been deceiving. I know he lost to Auger-Aliassime recently. I think it was in Paris. But that defeat aged well. I think it was Auger-Aliassime, but someone in the live chat may well correct me if I'm wrong. And I just think that his win over Isner also in Paris was a really good performance. So I just think that Rublev has been playing quite well lately. Got to the quarterfinal in New York, but his slam situation is different. I didn't expect him to beat Medvedev. I just didn't expect Casper Ruud to win as comfortably as he did.
I think the thing about the Rublev-Medvedev match wasn't about form that was surprising, because you're right, Rublev was in decent form of Paris. He lost the eventual champion Auger-Aliassime. He's very good indoors. He won a title last month. I forget where it was. So he was looking good. The issue was the matchup. He's only beaten Medvedev once before, and that was because Medvedev something distracted him and he lost concentration on the match, which changed the momentum. So matchup wise, Medvedev should have been winning that. So that's where the surprise came from there. But credit to Rublev, he fought really hard and probably played the best most people have seen him play. So I think he's definitely set himself up. He was looking good last year's ATP finals as well. He just got caught out by Casper Ruud at the very end. Otherwise, he could have been in the semi-finals.
Listen, by the way, I thought that the ATP finals was a case of winning 2 sets, but Rublev arguably won 3 today because he had about 7 set points in the second set, and really he was the better player pretty much throughout the entire match, barring a 5-minute period when he blew all these set points in a tiebreak. Not all 7, I think, occurred in that tiebreak, but it may have been more than 7, by the way. I can't remember now, but it was several anyway. And it was just about a 5-minute period where somehow he managed to lose that set. He also was a break up in the first set, but blew that one as well. So, he did play really, really well. And I think mentally as well, he recovered very well from the advantage that he held, as I said, pretty much throughout the match, and then crushingly losing that first set. And yet he got an early break in the second, which I think was really, hats off to him, because we're not always convinced about where Rublev is at in terms of the fact that he often appears pretty annoyed with himself when things don't go his way. He knows the talent he has. He feels as though he should be doing better sometimes. And, well, today he did do better. And listen, he's in the group of death, so to speak, but he breathed a bit of life in it, certainly from his own perspective today.
Yeah, I don't think it's the group of death anymore. I think this could be, well, for him anyway, because, okay, he's got to get through, let's say this match goes how we think it's going to end and Djokovic wins. He plays Djokovic next. He has beaten Djokovic recently, but Djokovic wasn't quite himself, so I still think Djokovic will probably win that match. Then he'd have to play Tsitsipas, and Tsitsipas, they have a brilliant rivalry. They've produced some absolutely epic matches. They usually go 3 sets or go to a decider. And indoors, they're pretty evenly matched as well. So I could see that sort of finale being a cracker between those two. And I think I would give Rublev a decent shot at beating Tsitsipas and actually booking himself a place in the semi-finals and coming second in the group.
Yeah. I mean, basically beating Medvedev. Like I said, you win your first match, whoever it's against, but against Daniel Medvedev, perhaps in particular, giving Andrei Rublev a good chance. Yeah, I do remember that match you're referring to that Rublev beat Djokovic in on the clay courts of Belgrade, I think it was, wasn't it? Just sort of a few weeks before the French Open, I guess. Yeah,
but Djokovic wasn't really fully fit yet. He'd only really just begun his season. He scrapped his way to that final already. Gone 3 sets in almost every match. I think it probably was every match actually. Nearly gone out a couple of times. So got knocked out a couple of times. So I think he just ran out of gas a little bit in the final, which is unusual for him. But hey, he's getting on a bit.
Yeah, I do. I remember that as well. Yeah, I remember that as well, that tournament. And you're right, he was close, but he was building momentum as it turned out, if you like, because I remember, I think he went out in the first or the second round, or his second match in Monte Carlo against Davidovich Fokina, and he mentioned in the third set how he was sort of running out of steam there because he barely played any tennis this year. But by Serbia, he was building a bit more momentum, albeit he ran out of steam, if you like, in that final against Rublev. But by the time he arrived in Rome, he was sort of there, if you like, well, more than there, because he won the tournament. By the way, for those of you joining us, great that you've dropped by to join Nick and I. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Nick and I are here going to take you through this Djokovic-Tsitsipas match. We've got pretty much every match this week we're going to be covering on the channel one way or another live. I think it'll be me and Mario are going to be covering the first match tomorrow, and I think I'll have Jack in the evening. That's a nice point for Tsitsipas to win. Of course, Tsitsipas is a breakdown here. What do you think of the Tsitsipas outfit, by the way, Nick?
I think it's fine. I I think I hate it. That sort of half black, half white combo can look good. That sort of streak of color down the middle. I mean, I'm not the best person to ask about aesthetics. As long as it does the job, then I'm not particularly bothered what it looks like. As long as it's not making me go blind, so I'll give it a win.
Fair enough. Yeah, and looking at Novak's, I think Shuhu's got a good point. It's Tsitsipas Shanks that, so it's 40-15 to Novak. Talking about Novak's outfit, it looks as though it's the same style as the one he had pretty much in the summer during the clay court season, albeit that it was a red shirt for the clay court season. So I think Shuhu's got a pretty good point in that this was probably his Australian Open outfit. But I don't remember what happened to him in Australia this year. I don't remember him being there.
No, I don't know how he did. Like he seemed.
I don't remember how he got on either. No,
I think he disappeared pretty early on. I think.
Yeah, I think he must have had an early round of feet. Yeah, I don't really remember what happened. It's funny because he normally does quite well in Australia. I think he's picked up a slam or two there over the years.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously he's the most successful player ever in Australia. He's not a stranger to early round defeats. He did lose to Dennis Istomin in 2017, which was I remember that one was an interesting match to wake up to. Did I wake up to it or did I wake up to the result? I don't know. This is the struggle when you're European and you're trying to follow tennis in Australia. You must be looking forward to trying to plan the coverage for the Australian Open, John.
Yeah, I've pretty much got the 2 weeks off from memory. I mean, in my day job, we sort of book our stuff 3 months in advance. So I certainly know what I'm doing all the way until January right now, and I'm pretty sure I'll have pretty much every day off. Yeah, it is tricky. But I listen. There's a small chance I might go to Australia. We'll see how it pans out. But I'll certainly be doing. My plan is to pretty much cover every second day, and seeing if some of you popcorn guys can fill in the gaps for me as well. By the way, talking of popcorn, I listened to a pod. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago that Shrihari and Jethro and Gil Gross were on as they previewed this tournament. Anything in the pipeline with the popcorn podcast? It's difficult for me to get that out. Or any articles in the pipeline?
I struggle with that one. In terms of articles, you would probably have to best ask Scott, who was commentating on the earlier match, as he and Owen are the ones who know what's in the pipeline, because obviously there's a group of about 30 writers. And we don't necessarily know what we're all working on. I'm not currently working on anything at the minute. I'm just sort of sitting back and enjoying the tennis and seeing if anything inspires me. In terms of the Popcorn Tennis podcast, Shrihari and I do have a couple of episodes actually already recorded and ready to go at some point. So one of them is a review of the WTA finals, where myself and Jethro spoke to Juan Ignacio from Twitter, so the stats man for amateur WTA fans, about his take on it. And there is also an episode which we have ready to go, which Shrihari and I think actually all three of us are speaking to May, who is on Twitter in a I won't say her Twitter handle because it might get, well, we're not monetized at the minute, but we'll definitely get demonetized. But we were discussing with her actually about both Dominic Thiem and Daniel Medvedev, and dedicating an episode to them and why they might be the best players of the born in the 1990s.
Oh, okay, cool. What's her name, by the way? Not her Twitter handle, but just her name.
Well, her name is May. I believe her name on Twitter is Tennis Legends Born in May. It's kind of getting to the point where a lot of the people who might associate with Popcorn you interview don't necessarily want their actual names out there. So May is what she's known as. I think in person as well. But yeah, that's. But yeah, so if you want to go and check her out. She's got a blog called String Theory, which is quite interesting, and she tends to focus on the narratives in tennis, the stories in the sport, the stories of the matches, rather than the technical aspects, which I always find really interesting as a fan, because that's what draws me to the sport, sort of the drama of it. So yeah, if you haven't read any of those, check it out.
Cool. Nice. Anyway, regarding checking it out, I see, is that Musetti I think we saw in the crowd checking out this evening's match. The backup players, the alternates, there's obviously Holger Rune and Hurkacz, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Do we know if one of them, let's say Holger Rune, because he's obviously the first alternate, if he stepped in before the second match and he won his 2 matches, would he then qualify for the semi-finals? I think he would.
Yeah, you'd have to win them both.
Yeah.
It gets complicated with all the maths of it all, because obviously it's down to how many matches you win. But yeah, they were, if Rune came in and won both his matches, yeah, 100% he'd get in, because it's down to, did you win 2 matches, yes or no?
Normally, yeah. But my point is, if he finishes in the top 2 by virtue of winning his 2 matches, yeah, I think I guess you should. The problem is, I think last year that the players came in and didn't win 2 matches, or they came, because I think we had 2 alternates used last year, because didn't Berrettini pull out injured at some point, and somebody else maybe?
Berrettini did. I think Tsitsipas might have as well, actually.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I listened to the pod. I think you weren't on it, Nick, but I listened to the popcorn. I'm having still, the popcorn thing that you can get on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I listened to the preview of this with Gil Gross. I thought it was really enthralling. Thanks to Shrihari as well, who gave a shout out to Talking Tennis towards the end. The only thing I would say is that I think Shrihari said this is the most competitive, or the one with the biggest depth, since the ATP Tour Finals of 2015. But I was looking at 2019 and thinking, boy, oh boy, oh boy. The 2019 ATP Tour Finals, for those of you wondering, this was the lineup. You had Nadal, I think, probably playing the best indoor tennis of his career. He was sensational at the Davis Cup. He was slightly off color, perhaps, in his first match against Medvedev, but in the way he came back against Medvedev and Tsitsipas to win both of those matches was just insane. Unlucky not to qualify. Novak Djokovic was there. Roger Federer, which I think is the big argument for basically any tournament before 2020. The fact that if you've got the big 3 there, in one shape or another. And this is Federer, I think the dying embers of Federer, but still he was there and he beat Novak, of course. You had Daniel Medvedev on towards the end of that, probably even just past his unbelievably hot streak. Dominic Thiem, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Alex Zverev, and Matteo Berrettini rounding out the tournament. And Thiem was at the beginning, I would argue, of a 12-month period, which is just insane for him, that spanned obviously 2 Grand Slam finals, one of which he won. I think that is depth, and I think that 8 easily for me outstrips the 8 we've got here this year. And also we're missing Carlos Alcaraz, so the world number 1.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think I completely agree with that assessment. I thought the 2019 field was great. I thought the 2019 tournament was great. There was so many good matches in that tournament. And actually, just before this match started, Amazon Prime in the UK was showing a replay of the 2019 final between Tsitsipas and Thiem, which went down to a final set tiebreak, in which Tsitsipas got too many breaks up. Thiem came back, looked like he was going to turn it around, and then Tsitsipas finished him off at the last moment, which was dramatic. It was a dramatic final. But yeah, you had other moments like Nadal coming back against Medvedev in the round robin. You had Roger Federer beating Novak Djokovic surprisingly in the group stages. It was a wonderful event, and I agree with you. A wonderful lineup. The big 3, the best of the 1990 generation in Medvedev and Tsitsipas and Thiem. Who were the other 2 there again?
Did you say Dominic Thiem? You got Berrettini was the number 8 basically. You had Zverev, Tsitsipas, Thiem, Medvedev rounding it out.
Yeah, Zverev and Berrettini obviously also 2 Grand Slam finalists. I mean, like everyone in that tournament has now in their careers reached at least 1 Grand Slam final.
Yeah,
I don't think you could say that about pretty much any other ATP finals lineup ever.
No, and you're probably looking at currently, so it's including the ones the one that Team has won since, and Medvedev too, you're probably looking at about almost 70 Grand Slams there between them. Certainly
Yeah, but the big
65
will
or so.
skew the numbers.
Yeah, and we're also looking at. I mean, I just think that it was a great tournament, as you say, but that's depth. I mean, maybe Berrettini, but for me, for example, Berrettini, who's the number 8 there, would still probably be, in terms of their career, has achieved probably more than, I don't know, maybe Casper Ruud, 2 Grand Slam finals, but no Masters 1000 tournaments. I don't know. I just think that there was incredible depth.
I just want to step in to say, I don't know if you guys watched the point at 30 all.
Yeah,
Steph
I did.
tries to
It
get
was
the crowd
insane.
going. Djokovic wins the point after, and he does the same thing, and he glares at Steph. So that was interesting.
Did he? Did he give him?
Yeah, I'll get the tweet up in a bit. I have the screenshots ready, so I just wanted to let you know.
No problems. We have digressed a bit, and it was a big hold, by the way. Who's that in the crowd? Somebody famous, I think. We did digress a bit there. We did just miss a really big hold from Djokovic, but he's still got the advantage in this match. Whether there's some tension between the two players, I hadn't picked up on that. But certainly, if you could share the tweet with us, that would be amazing, Shuhui.
Welcome to Talking Tennis, where we talk about tennis with a tennis match in the background.
we do get distracted, yeah, especially by kits and cakes, and we were talking about Haribo earlier.
I'm disappointed you didn't offer me any.
It was Scott who was on the Haribo. I think Scott was on the Haribo. Jack was on the shortbread. Shrehu mentioned how he'd had a very healthy lunch involving lentils, vegetables, and rice. So we had a nice variety, let's say, of various different levels of healthiness.
Sure. That's well, it sounds like they had a great conversation. Sadly, I couldn't tune in because I was giving a presentation for work. So I couldn't be distracted at any point. Otherwise, if I started talking about tennis during that time, I think everyone involved would have thought I'd gone slightly mad.
I know we're midway through the first set, but if anyone watching wants to post in the live chat their predictions for this match, whether they think Novak or Tsitsipas is going to win, and also say 2 or 3 sets. Of course, Novak heavily the favorite now in this first set with the break advantage. But coming back to the match today, as that's what I'm sure many people are excited about. Novak is leading 4-3 with a break, but in the previous service game, there was a big point at 30 all that Novak seemed to be extremely pleased about winning, because I think he was a little bit under pressure on his serve. He's yet to face a break point, but that was probably as close as he came. So it'll be interesting to see what pans out here. Still don't know if there was any particular tension between the two players. I don't think they're best friends, but they're certainly not shown any tension in the past between these two, unlike other players on the tour. As Novak goes down the tee, it's a good defensive shot from Tsitsipas, but it's not enough to win the point because Novak does the 1-2 there, meaning 15 love. I think Tsitsipas, in terms of what happened in Australia, was one of the players that sort of didn't get involved, if you like. And I think maybe him not supporting Novak perhaps bothered Novak. I don't know, but he wasn't one of the ones that came out and defended him like perhaps Medvedev did and 1 or 2 others. So I don't know if that bothered Novak, but I think really it's not really the biggest issue in the world. Anyway, so here we go. So it's 15 love to Novak as they exchange forehands at the moment. I don't know if I'm slightly ahead of you, Nick, with my situation. It's currently 15 love as they are both on the forehands hitting the ball down the middle of the court.
I think we're on par. Steph still hitting forehands. Djokovic switched to try and go to the Tsitsipas backhand, who slices it. Djokovic slices his own forehand into the net. Tsitsipas. Yeah,
maybe I'm 5 seconds ahead. I don't know, but we're very, very close. Tsitsipas rocking the slice there, by the way, which is something that he has been criticised for in the past. But he didn't have, by his standards, a bad grass court season in terms of the fact at least he picked up a tournament in Mallorca. Do you think Tsitsipas has improved some elements of his game this year?
Yes, he has demonstrated a bit more of a tactical brain in matches. He said his slice has improved quite a bit. I think he's definitely managed to vary up his game plan in some matches. I'm thinking of his match against Zverev in Monte Carlo. But like he's only done it in certain matches. He's not doing it showing it on a consistent basis. It's almost like he's gone out there and he does it when he knows someone's a particular threat. So yeah, maybe some positive signs, but not necessarily someone who I would say there's still some work to do, basically.
Got it. Now I get, by the way, from Shrivi, I get the Rick and Morty comment that he made earlier about the green outfit of Novak. So I'll give that a little retweet. Anyway, Djokovic has held for 5-3. He was under no pressure whatsoever on his serve. I mean, basically, if we see some amazing points, of course, we'll highlight them. But you can just assume that serves are being held fairly comfortably. In fact, Novak got that break at the beginning in the first game of the match, as it turned out. But both players have been fairly comfortable on their serves since. Stefanos leading this game 15-love. But what a return from Novak Djokovic.
He's been returning like crazy, and he's been serving well. And I know you're saying that, you know, we haven't really had many amazing points, or we'll share it. But the fact is that, like, these are amazing points if you're a Novak Djokovic fan to watch, because he is at his best. He is coming out absolutely firing. So if you're just an appreciative of someone in of good tennis as an individual performance, then this is one for you. And I know that Shahiri backstage is probably absolutely loving this right now.
What have you got any thoughts on the court speed this year in Turin? A lot of comments, particularly after the first two matches yesterday, which didn't have too many breaks of serve. I think in the Roode match against Felix, there was just one break of serve, just one break point was needed to break that serve. And I think Roode was never even wasn't pushed to deuce until sort of towards the end of the match. Have you had any thoughts on the court speed and just the conditions in general?
Not really. It seems to be pretty standard for an indoor tournament. I would expect it to be fast. I prefer fast courts. I don't really have a comparison to last year or any other indoor tournaments in my mind. It seems fast. I don't know whether I think that's a good thing. Others may disagree.
I think it might be slightly different, bearing in mind that you've got the altitude compared to, say, London, as Novak goes big on the return, but he goes long. So it's 5-4 on the change of ends, and Novak, in about a minute from now, will be serving for the first set. I'm not doubting the quality on both sides of the net. It's just that neither has really been pushed on their serve since the first game. I think we haven't had even a break point. Even Steph has been fairly comfortable, especially bearing in mind he's playing the best returner of all time. Steph, has he got a chance of getting back in this set?
Yeah, he does. It depends on what Novak Djokovic shows up to serve. It would be quite a bit of a dip from Djokovic. I think Tsitsipas's chances are completely dependent on Djokovic's level right now. In this set, over the course of the match in the second set, given the way Tsitsipas has been playing and holding on to his serve, second set could be a lot more competitive. But I think right here, right now, I would be surprised to see Djokovic come out and play a less good service game in comparison to the other four he's played so far.
Yeah, right. By the way, Medvedev, Rafa, and Felix have all lost in this tournament so far. If I said one of those three is still making the semi-finals, which one is it?
Okay. I'm going to have to say Felix.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, of the group he's in, he's in with Rafa, Roode, who he's already played, and Fritz. I think he's probably... I think Rafa's not looking quite right, so he's vulnerable. So I could see Felix winning against Rafa. Fritz will be closer, but if Felix has got his mojo back, then he could well win that match. Rafa, I don't think is playing well enough to get out of the groups right now, or at least he doesn't seem to have the energy levels required to do that. And with Medvedev, as I kind of said earlier, I think he's not in a great position in his group now. He's lost at Rublev. When he plays, I think when he plays Tsitsipas, that's going to be close. Tsitsipas recently beat him in what was probably a bit of a surprise result for Steph. But I think it really depends on how he deals with it. But if Tsitsipas is feeling confident indoors, which he just seems to be right now, even despite the scoreline right now, then I think Tsitsipas could well beat Medvedev. But even if he doesn't, I think Medvedev may well struggle. Will definitely struggle to beat Novak Djokovic. I don't see Medvedev winning that match. So I think Medvedev going through would really depend on how Rublev does against his next two opponents as well.
Djokovic just peppering the backhand there of Tsitsipas, and on the third or fourth attempt, it broke down as Djokovic takes a 30-love lead in this 10th game, and as he's serving for the first set. So he's 2 points away from sealing that. He's gone to the backhand again and again, by the way, both on the serve and then again, and a third time on the backhand. This time it's a slice, and he goes fourth time on the backhand. Now it's on the forehand of Steph. Be interested to see as he goes. Steph goes for the drop shot, and that is class. 30-15.
Interesting.
Just wonder if Steph's backhand over the course of 7 matches, outside of clay anyway, whether it's can hold up on a hard court in particular, and of grass as well. Just don't know if that's a bit like Berrettini in a way. It's just eventually at some point somebody good enough, whether that be Novak or Rafa or someone else, is going to eventually expose it. Anyway, Novak there applauding that drop shot because it was top draw.
Was very good drop shot. I mean, on Tsitsipas, I think his backhand is probably better than Berrettini's. It's much more of a weapon. The issue is that he struggles to defend on it. As a weapon, the backhand is incredible. As Novak,
we just saw actually that lack of defense on it there as he sort of did a slice, but it just wasn't very effective, and Novak put it away for 2 set points. I'll talk us through this point because it could well be the decisive one in this set, and then we'll have a quick evaluation of where we're at. Let's see how we go anyway. 40-15, Novak to serve. If he gets the first serve in here, you'd obviously fancy him for the point. So we'll see how it goes. He gets the first serve in, but I think Tsitsipas is challenging this, by the way. I'm not sure if it was called out because I've got my sound down. Looks like we're going to see a challenge here, but Stefanos was pretty convinced. But he may well have also done so because he knows that it was on the defensive already. Let's see how it goes, because if he gets this wrong, and he has got it wrong, Stefanos Tsitsipas has not won this set because Novak Djokovic has sealed it, as it turned out, with an unreturnable. So 6-4. Very similar to what happened in Paris. Novak ceding an early advantage, winning the first set in fairly comfortable style. We all know that Paris, of course, ended up being anything but comfortable for Novak. But I'm not so sure if the Greek will return in style tonight. Having just a quick look at a few of the stats here, we've got 12 winners to 7 in the favor of Novak, but he's also winning the unforced error count in that he's made 2 less than his opponent as well. So pretty much he's sort of on top in every department. What are your thoughts on that first set, Nick?
He's on top in every department. I think Djokovic won that set with a very strong opening game, and then just maintained his level to serve it out. I think Tsitsipas did well to make it 6-4. I think the second set could be very interesting to see whether Tsitsipas can hold on to his serve through it. As the match currently stands, it seems like Novak's to lose. I think he seems to be playing the better tennis right now.
Interesting comment there from Gil Gross as well, in terms of how things panned out in Paris with Tsitsipas sort of getting some crowd support and getting them all excited, but maybe Novak trying to stem that this evening with his response. Shuhi, what are your thoughts on that first set?
Yeah, I mean, just a masterclass from Djokovic from start to finish, really. He didn't really put a foot wrong at all. Barely, I mean, I wouldn't say there were any completely uncharacteristic unforced errors. Most of them were on Tsitsipas' return games. There was, after he got the service break. On his own serve, he's just been completely clinical. Has barely given Steph a sniff, except for that game that did go to 30 all, as we did see. Uh, yeah, where I would say this match is slightly different from their Paris semi-final at the same stage was that you sort of felt like the only way for Djokovic was downhill, because it was a lot. It also had a lot to do with Steph not playing well at all. But I think he's playing all right. He's not playing badly. I don't think I would say that. I'm not sure about you and Nick. He was just completely absent, I would say, in the opening set in Paris. I think he got all of 1 or 2 return points. So it's not the case here. Steph is still in the match, but he's playing catch up because Djokovic is just so much better. We'll have to see. I mean, the match is still far from done. Djokovic, if he is to maintain this level, of course, I expect him to win in straight sets. But as we know, that's not always how tennis matches pan out. You do have one player raising his level, the other, having a slight dip. You just never know. But as it stands, I did pick Djokovic as the 65-35 favorite. Looks like that so far.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right, Shahuri, thanks very much for your thoughts. You can get back to the match because we're at 15 all already.
Right.
As they get the second set underway.
Yeah, I mean, hope to see you soon with Novak being the victor. But yeah,
that may well be the case. That may well be the case. We'll see.
Right.
Cheers. Go on, Nick.
I was going to say, I agree with Shrihari's assessment of Tsitsipas. I don't think his level's been that bad, actually. I think he's actually been playing pretty solid, pretty well. It's just that Djokovic has been playing better and played better at the very beginning of the match. So I think that's why we're in the position that we're in. But Tsitsipas is doing well to has been doing well to hold on to his serve as he gets to 30-15.
Yeah, agreed. He's on 30-15. He's just got a net cord in his favour there. Always Tsitsipas comes into the net. It's a pretty good volley, but it's not enough to win the point. It is now with a smash, 40-15, as he punches the end of light. I think he's still trying to get the crowd going with a few more fist pumps. Listen, there's been a couple of shanks as well, though, from the Greek. I do wonder if the court speed had maybe just taken him a bit by surprise. I mean, obviously, they'll have all been practicing quite a bit in the last 7 days. By the way, I had an interesting interview this morning with I'm trying to think of her name. I do apologize. I remember her same name was Mecca. We had a good chat with somebody on the ground in Turin, and we were talking about the fact that Taylor Fritz was, despite being the first alternate, he was the first to arrive in Turin, and perhaps that gave him a slight advantage. Georgia, my apologies, Georgia. Yeah, Georgia was on this morning, an Italian journalist who's on the ground in Turin, and she's been watching the practices as well as all the matches, basically. And she was just saying how Taylor Fritz was there, obviously serving unbelievably yesterday, and was the first to arrive in Turin. Complete contrast to Nick Kyrgios, who decided to rock up late last night. And Kyrgios, of course, coming unstuck in his doubles match today. Tsitsipas winning the first game of this second set, so that's important. Completely different to how he started the match when he lost his serve and never got a look in from there on in. Yeah,
pretty much. I think that's a good summary. But again, held well in that opening game of the set to avoid disaster, going behind again in the second set. So I think he's definitely trying to get the crowd going at the minute. Trying to get the crowd on his side to try and give him the belief to keep fighting this match, which he could do. I mean, didn't he? When in that, which way round was the sets in Paris? Did Tsitsipas win the second set?
Tsitsipas won the second set, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just hoping for a repeat of Paris, which playing at this level is very possible. Although he's just put that backhand into the net to go 15-love down in Djokovic's opening service game. I think Tsitsipas usually shanks the backhand, whatever surface he's playing on. To be honest, it does seem to be some part of his game style. Even the great Roger Federer, who with his impeccable one-handed backhand shanks a couple of match, unless he was in just occasionally perfect form, which Happened very rarely, but he could do it for a set or two, like that set against John, isn't it, where he hit like 1 or even 0 on forced errors.
Yeah, right. So it's 30-love now. Novak again serving into the backhand. Let's see where he serves on this occasion. He goes to the forehand side, although he's actually gone wide. So it's a second serve for Stefanos to look at. Let's see if he goes into the backhand or the forehand on this second serve. I would imagine it's about 60 or 70% he's gone to the backhand. He goes to the backhand this time, and it's another shank from Stefanos.
Yeah, that was a painful one as well. But it was like, again, body serve with the single-handed backhand. It was right up against his chest almost. Couldn't really follow through probably with it. Ideally, he would have wanted to move out of the way to get into better position. But hey, that's why you body serve. You put your opponent at a massive disadvantage in terms of court position. So that was a very well executed body serve from Novak, knowing what would probably happen there.
No, that's a really good point. It was a tough body serve for someone with a one-handed backhand, but it was just ironic that I was having to talk about a few shanks at the same time. As he goes down the tee this time, Novak, as he looks to win this game without losing a point, that's exactly what he does, because Tsitsipas goes long with a backhand slice. I think you're right. Stefanos hasn't done much wrong the first game of the match aside, but if you were to look at something, I still think. I remember Stefanos's backhand against Rafa in Melbourne in 2021 for the not the first 2 sets, but basically from the middle part of the third set onwards, it was sensational. Particularly the backhand down the line, which we know can hurt Rafa. And probably from that moment onwards until the final against Novak in Paris, it was pretty solid. But I would suggest this year and this match as well, it just will break down. And it's the defense, as you say. I think, as you say, listen, if you're going to be aggressive on the backhand, you're going to get some, you're going to lose some. But it's the defense which doesn't defend well enough. And it's the slice as well, which he's got to do it. He's got to improve it. And I guess the only way you're going to get there is by using it in matches, whether that be against Novak or someone else. Anyways, 15-love up in this game, and it looks like he's just got an ace. So it's 30-love. Okay, listen. One of Stefanos Tsitsipas or Dominic Thiem is getting to a Wimbledon final in their career. Which one is it?
Dominic Thiem.
Interesting call.
I think Thiem has got the better grass court record. Okay, Tsitsipas has just won a title. Thiem has a grass court title as well. He's been further into the Wimbledon draw, I think, than Tsitsipas. But I also think that Thiem, if you're going to compare game styles, I think Thiem does have the stronger backhand. On the whole, he can do a little bit more with it. And I would argue although Tsitsipas' backhand is a decent weapon, Dominic Thiem's backhand is a major weapon. And I think on a grass court, I think that's going to make the difference. I do think he can vary it up a little bit better on there as well. So yeah, I would back Dominic Thiem to get to a Wimbledon final if it was between him and Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Yeah, full disclosure, I don't think either probably will, but I just went for sort of two players that have been at the top or near the top of the game over the last few years, and two of them that probably I don't really think have yet to master the grass courts of SW19. By the way, Tsitsipas just challenged a shot there. It went fractionally long, so it became 30-15, although this time it's Novak going slightly long on the return, so it's 40-15. So Tsitsipas has 2 game points for a 2-1 lead. I'm guessing you tipped Djokovic to win the tournament, therefore, before things got underway, Nick?
Djokovic or Felix. It was one of those two.
Okay.
I didn't have the courage to stick my colours to the mast of one of them. I think if you'd forced me to pick one, I would have gone with the slightly more unpredictable nature of tennis over 3 sets and indoors and over at the ATP finals. I probably would have picked Felix. Now, after these opening few rounds, I would say Djokovic now, as I have earlier. But if you were asking me pre-tournament, I would have said him or Felix.
Yeah, right. I think I went. Oh, in fact, I know I went Djokovic, but it was just the boring side of me, really. One thing that has occurred though in this tournament, I think neither Federer nor Djokovic have won it for. Djokovic hasn't won it since 2015. Did Federer win it post 2015?
No, he hasn't. Federer's last ATP Finals title was 2011.
Okay, so none of the big three have won this tournament because Rafa's, of course, never won it. So none of the big three have won it since 2015. So it has produced a slightly unusual or slightly less favored winner, perhaps, partly for some of the reasons you mentioned. I think I would add that normally it comes at the end of a pretty lengthy season where the big three have been in semi-finals and finals of pretty much every Grand Slam on the tour, never mind the Masters tournaments as well. So, but this year, of course, we've got a very different year, particularly when it comes to Novak, bearing in mind he's played 2 of the slams, and I think he's in probably the best shape going into this tournament that he's been in for the last 7 years.
Yes, that is
Physically,
true. Definitely. If you look at how he's been in previous years, 2016, he wasn't quite right in the second half of the year. He was definitely second best to Andy Murray at that point. 2017 didn't play. 2018, I think he was burning out a little bit after he was still kind of getting his momentum back after finally finding his top level again after coming back from surgery. And then 19, I think he was recovering from an injury still, which hampered him a bit. And then I don't know what happened in 2020 or 2021. I think 2020, Dominic Thiem and Daniel Medvedev were having amazing tournaments and outplayed him on the day. So I don't think he did much wrong there. He was just up against better opponents. And then, a little bit lackluster against Zverev in 2021. So I think there's some external factors like injury that have affected him. But he has had some weird dips as well. So he doesn't look like he's in danger of an odd dip. And he doesn't look injured. So I think at the minute he would probably only really lose to a spectacular performance by an opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, also his win-loss record this year going into the tournament on indoor hard courts. Of course, 2020 was a year. So he's done what I would say is he must have won about 12 and lost 1, getting to a final of a Masters 1000, and then obviously winning the 250 in Tel Aviv and the 500 in Astana, skittling off some pretty handy opponents as well on the way. Medvedev, by the way, just a little aside, hasn't beaten a top 10 opponent, I think, all year. In a contrasting fashion, which of course would have been compounded by today's defeat. That's an interesting stat. I remember speaking to Jack a few weeks ago when we were just starting to ponder which of Medvedev or Felix was in the better shape, if you like, at that point. That was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it's before Paris Bercy anyway. And both were in excellent shape for one reason or another, but I just went slightly more for Felix at that stage than Medvedev. And I just said that the only thing with Medvedev is that during this sort of turn of the corner, which obviously included when he pulled out injured against Djokovic in Astana, there just wasn't a landmark victory against a big opponent for Medvedev during that run. Whereas I felt that Felix had kind of had some of those, beating Alcaraz and Rune en route to the Basel title, for example. And I'm sure I'm missing a few more. And of course, Felix was also in the middle of an unbeaten run on his serve. That has come to an end, of course. And of course, Felix losing yesterday to Casper Ruud. So that doesn't look too good. Djokovic, by the way, just double faulting there. So he's now at 30 all on his serve, 1-2 down, albeit on serve in this set. So this could be an interesting point. It's the first double fault of the match.
Wow. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it does have to be said, this service game, Djokovic hasn't quite looked as clinical. And let's face it, even the best can't maintain that. Even the best rarely maintain their top form throughout a whole match. It has happened probably a handful of times, but to Djokovic. But he's on a second serve here. This could be critical.
Yeah, sure could. Sure could. Let's have a look, see what Tsitsipas does with this second serve. And in fact, it's another double fault. So we go over an hour without a double fault, basically, or about an hour without a double fault, and then we get 2 in one game.
Is that a bus?
Say again?
Never mind, it's a bad joke.
Oh, I think you said, is that a bus?
I did,
It's like a bus. It's like a bus. Yeah, gotcha.
Very British humour.
Yeah. So first break point of the match for Tsitsipas. Djokovic had 2 in the opening game and took advantage of one of those 2. Took advantage of the second one of the 2, if I remember rightly. And yeah, so now it's Tsitsipas with his first break point of the match. Let's see how he gets on with this. Djokovic, knowing him, will probably get a first serve in. Let's have a look. He doesn't, though. He hits the net. So this will be interesting now. Probably the most interesting point of the match, arguably, bearing in mind where we are at. 30-40, Djokovic to serve, second serve. What is Tsitsipas going to do with this second serve? He's on the backhand, of course. Forehand, Novak. Backhand, he's going to just pepper the backhand, isn't he, as we can imagine. Although he goes to the forehand this time because he tries to change it up. This time he's definitely going to go long on the backhand. Stefanos on the defensive. Djokovic with a smash, and he puts it away nicely. Deuce. Good play, Novak Djokovic. That was a well-constructed point to the delight of his team, of which Goran Ivanisevic, of course, is their prominent figure. He is. Big point that for Djokovic.
Definitely. And he did construct it well. He had Tsitsipas on the run the rest of the time. Tsitsipas did well to keep himself in there and get to the ball. But yeah, a little bit concerning for Djokovic fans when he gets an overhead. But he did manage to put that one away. So yeah, well saved break point. It would have been a bit embarrassing if he'd thrown this game away.
Sure would. By the way, I'm going to be interviewing Simon Chambers in probably in about 10 days from now. Oh, that's a nice little dink drop shot there from Djokovic.
Nice job.
And now he's going for the crowd, trying to get them on his side. This is turning into like a WWF situation with the 2 players trying to get even more crowd support. That's quite funny. Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing Simon Chambers in the next week or 2. Of course, he and Simon Graf have just co-written a book on Roger Federer and the effect he had on not just the tennis world, but basically people at large.
The Roger Federer's book, yes. I mean, that's it should be a very interesting interview. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, Roger Federer being sort of my first favorite player, and I think a lot of Federer's impact now in terms of his status. Given he's fallen to 3rd in a lot of the statistics behind Nadal and Djokovic, a lot of his status is coming from the impact he's had as an athlete on the wider world outside of tennis, and his name recognition and the brand that he built. So I think that would be absolutely fascinating to see how he did that.
Yeah, Tsitsipas going long there, by the way, and therefore Djokovic holding in what was obviously a very, very tough hold for him as we approach the hour mark. It's 2 games all in this second set as he goes down the tee there with a serve. 2 games all. Stefanos Tsitsipas 15 love. Yeah, that was a big, big hold there from Novak as we can see him gesticulating to the crowd there. Because that was a huge hold for Djokovic, obviously having a break point, but even just some of the nature of the points suggested obviously 2 double faults involved there. Nevertheless, Stefanos looking comfortable again on serve. Hasn't faced a break point since the opening game. I'm sure the Greek, if he does go on to lose this match, will have some regrets about that first game because he just wasn't on it right from the beginning where his opponent was. And so far, that's cost him. But anyway, he's 30 love up as he goes to the Djokovic forehand. This time, Stefanos comes into the net, but it's not worked out because it's 30-15. What's Stefanos like at the net? What do you think?
I don't think he's too bad. He's not. I think he's an elite player at the net. They all are. In terms of comparing elite for elite, it's not a part of his game that he gets an awful lot of praise for. But I don't think he's bad. I think it'd be interesting to see him playing doubles with someone other than his brother or Nick Kyrgios. And see, and maybe if we see that, then maybe I'll tell you how his net game is. But in singles, it's fine; it does the job.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, there you go. Case in point.
Yeah,
great,
good.
Great get.
Good. Now he's trying to get the crowd on board.
Could you? If this goes WWF, I'm expecting some kind of random substitution at some point.
By the way, I'm calling it WWF, but of course it's called WWE these days. I'm a bit old school on that, and of course WWF is the Worldwide Fund for Nature, which is why it had to change its name, by the way. So it used to be called in the 90s. It was called WWF, but then the NGO or rights organization for animals were like, hang on a second, we've had this for quite some time. So they had to change it to WWE. And Novak goes long on the return, so it's 3-2 Stefanos Tsitsipas. And back to the net game, by the way, that was an incredible volley there, and it was opportune, bearing in mind what we were just talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Tsitsipas definitely, again, holding, kind of putting aside the disappointment of losing the opportunity to break. I mean, to be fair, that game was all on Djokovic's racket. There wasn't an awful lot he could do, but he did have an opportunity at that point. So I'll be interested to see sort of how he continues to handle this. But I think he'll be in the mix. He'll be in the mix for the rest of this set. I think he's playing pretty well. I think this second set's going to go to a tiebreak.
May well be. Let us know your thoughts in the live chat. How are you seeing this second set panning out? Is it going to a tiebreak? Is Stefanos going to win it? Or will Novak end up winning the match in straight sets? It's on serve at the moment, but obviously a tiny advantage for Stefanos, bearing in mind he's held serve 3 times compared to twice from Novak. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hitting that notification bell. I will be speaking once again to Our Lady on the Ground in Turin in a day or two, giving you the 10 minutes episode that I'll try and bring you, if not every day, almost every day. So that'll be something to look forward to as I interview Georgia again. I think that'll be Wednesday morning. I interview her, seeing what's going on down there in Turin. I know we're going to be covering pretty much every match this week. I think it'll be Mario, of course, who was on the show last week. And I will be covering the lunchtime or the afternoon match as it is here in Europe between Rafa Nadal and Felix. And pretty much loser is out. So that's a cutthroat match. And then tomorrow evening, we will have Jack and Ashley covering the night match, which will be between Casper Ruud and Taylor Fritz. Of course, that'll be interesting because the winner of that will be in good shape to win the group. Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, that's the beauty of this round robin format is you kind of have an idea of where the groups are going, but it's not exactly done and dusted. And so much of this is dependent on how everyone else does. So I think you've got yourself some good matches there. Definitely. Look at that.
Oh, lovely little lob from Tsitsipas, love 15.
It came from a poor drop shot, as it turned out, from Stefanos, but Novak didn't do enough with putting the ball away, and it was an excellent lob, as it turned out. Look at this on the replay.
That's a very positive lob.
Novak
very positive start from Tsitsipas. This Djokovic service game, very different to how last time when it was felt like a Djokovic dip. This time it feels like Tsitsipas is trying to assert himself. Good point. Yeah. Let's see how he does on the return here. He's on the backhand defensive, and Novak puts it away. It's a good serve and a good 1-2 from the Serbian. Let's see how this goes on. I mean, obviously, Djokovic facing his first break point of the match in the previous game. It'll be interesting to see if he faces any more once again as we hit 10:15 here in, where I am in Germany, but also in Italy. We're on the same time zone, 9:15 in the evening in the UK, where Nick is based. Let's see what Novak does. He goes to the backhand, and the backhand goes long. Excellent serve from Novak. 30-15. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to me that obviously the matches are a little bit earlier, local time. Well, not earlier for not only for those of us who've been watching on television for years, the ATP finals, but earlier maybe for, if you remember, the crowd and getting to 7 p.m. I have to remember that it's a little bit different. I don't think it makes too much of a difference, although it's probably much nicer getting home after the session finishes. I would be very interested in visiting Turin one day for the ATP finals. I went when it was in London. I don't know what about you, John?
I've
You
not
think you might
been.
go?
No, I've not been to the ATP finals wherever it's been located. No, I've done a lot of tennis tournaments over the years, the slams in particular. But I've yet to do an ATP. I thought about it this year. It was on my radar. I applied for a press pass. Unfortunately, didn't get it, but I'll try again next year. I still thought about going one night, but then I just thought, you know what? I'll enjoy it from the comfort of my living room. But no, I would love to go. And it's got a very similar feel, by the way, to London, right?
In terms of
The
indoors,
aesthetics
yes.
yeah.
Sometimes I try to you look at it and you're like, no, that looks kind of like how London was. Maybe feels a little bit bigger.
Okay.
London did feel quite intimate at points, like the crowd was quite close to the court. But overall, yes, it's sort of like that. But then the colouring makes sense and the branding around it. So I think they've done a very good job in Turin. Not been to the city before myself, so I can't compare it to London, but I imagine they're very different.
I have been for a football match at least once, but it was many, many years ago, and it was very, very, very cold. And we didn't have a hotel. I went there for the football. It was Juventus against Man United. Man United won, which kept me warm for a little while, but not long enough. And in the end, it was about 3 or 4 in the morning when basically all the bars had closed. We dived into this hotel, which we were not staying at. We just went up and down in the elevator for the next 2. Well, not for the next 2 or 3 hours. We thought that would be a tactic until we get thrown out. But we went in. It was a huge hotel, and we just went up and down. And then after about 10 minutes, we saw a huge congregation of Man United fans, which I guess were then getting up. All were doing something similar to us in the lobby. And we just hung out with them for a couple of hours and managed to stay warm. Stefanos bringing up an unreturnable there at 3-all. I'm sure many of our viewers here are really enjoying my little anecdotes about being cold in Turin. But that was in February. But we're having quite a mild November in mainland Europe. Is it pretty mild in London too right now?
I'm not in London. But
of course you're not. You're in Stoke, is it? Am I right with that?
Yes, Stoke-on-Trent, which it's not the north, it's the Midlands, but it's still colder than London. I mean, I would say for a November, it's not too bad, but it's definitely starting to feel cold. It's not too bad. It's definitely not quite tennis weather unless you're dedicated to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, the beauty, of course, with tennis is that basically when the weather's good, it's outside, and when it's not so good, it's inside, which I love. You know, we don't have that pretty much with any other sport, and football in particular, where we just got to suffer the cold. But of course, the football season is shutting down for a few weeks because I believe there's a pretty big international tournament. By the way, what a return, Novak Djokovic on the forehand there, 40-15, just ripping that away.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, it's interesting. I don't know what the situation is like in Germany with this, but indoor courts in the UK are actually fairly hard to come by. You have to be in a city pretty much to get them, and they're usually pretty expensive. That's the only kind of downside. At least when it's the summer, you can pretty much play it for free, but when it's indoors, you're looking for like 20-25 quid for an hour.
Yeah, that's pricey. Stefanos has just held, so it's 4-3. He's held fairly comfortably. In fact, once again, holding comfortably. Listen, while we're on the changeover, I will just say, by the way, the indoor courts in Bonn are not quite so pricey. And Bonn is a city, so maybe I'm not giving a complete full answer. But the other thing is, a lot of the indoor courts here are like carpet. By the way, they're not hardcourt; they're carpet.
Well, I know they've been removed from the professional tour. It's good to know that it still exists at an amateur level. It must be a tough surface to play on, though, because that's a low bounce.
It is, but it's okay. I seem to have a bit of fortune on it anyway, so I don't mind. But it's different. Listen, while we've got the changeover, we've got 60 seconds to get your view on this. You just mentioned that you've got an upcoming podcast from Popcorn on the WTA finals. Give me 60 seconds on which you can choose, either the matches, what happened, or of course some of the attendance comments.
I'll talk about the matches. So I can talk about the attendance. I thought that overall the WTA finals was perhaps a little bit flat. having said that, towards the end, it picked up. You had an amazing match between Daria Kasatkina and Caroline Garcia that I think arguably motivated Garcia to give her the momentum to win. It was a great sort of seesaw match that then turned into a wonderful third set that we were both playing their best and a wonderful contrast of styles. You then got two decent quality semi-finals, and the final was actually pretty good, even though it was straight sets. They were both serving super well, so it was a worthy finale in terms of the final match to the WTA season. Although I will say that the most memorable match was that final set between Garcia and Kasatkina. Garcia deserves champion, which is going to be dangerous in 2023.
Yeah. Stefanos going big on the return there, but good defense from Novak. So it's 3-4 at the moment. Novak with a forehand. This time it's forehand Steph. This is turning into a pretty good point. There's a slice there from Steph, fairly effective. Forehand big from Steph, meaning love 15 as he gets a little fist pump himself. That was a good point.
That was a very good point. Again, reminiscent of the first point of the previous Djokovic service game. Yet again, Stefanos trying to establish himself. If he goes a break up here, he's serving for the set, and then it's anyone's game. But let's see.
If he was to break and win the set, it would be very similar to Paris Bercy.
That is true. Actually, their scoreline would be very, very similar, which could mean for another. Hey, look, I'll take another epic deciding set tiebreak. As the Djokovic looks in control of the point, though, and Tsitsipas can't run down that forehand and puts it in the net.
Yeah, 15 all. But these are fairly important points now as we get towards the serious end of this set. Djokovic 3-4, but it is on serve and it's 15 all. What Tsitsipas, of course, will be desperate for is sort of just keeping his forehand in play, if you like, keeping himself on his forehand. But it probably does mean he's got to take charge of the point pretty early on. Novak there's dumping a fairly rudimentary forehand into the net. So it's 15-30. Interesting times for Novak. What did you think about that point?
Surprising that Djokovic missed that. It's probably the worst miss he's had all day, or one of them anyway. Apostolos Tsitsipas looks stressed. The nerves starting to kick in for the parent. Let's see how this point plays out.
Absolutely. You can talk us through it if you want. Ooh.
Okay, so Djokovic serves up the middle. Tsitsipas can't get it, and it's an unreturnable serve. Tsitsipas puts in that and stretches his knee a bit. That's interesting. I think he was probably it probably wasn't ideal placement on his feet when he tried to get the return back. But yeah, that was a really good serve from Djokovic to get into 30 all.
Excellent serve down the tee, yeah.
Dug himself halfway out the hole.
30 all. Talk us through this one as well.
So Djokovic bounces the ball again. Up the middle again. It seems to be working for him to go up the middle, and Djokovic finishes off at the net. Tsitsipas' return was way short. Djokovic could do anything he wanted with it and puts it at 40-30. Again, Djokovic stepping up when necessary. He is playing a level that, if he can maintain it, doesn't look like he's losing right now. So, I can keep talking until the end of the game if you want.
Yeah,
hopefully this is a long. But I would say, as we look at Djokovic here, serves again, goes out wide to mix up. Tsitsipas chops a return into the net. 3 really good serves to dig himself out of a hole. Novak Djokovic. When he's been behind in these service games, he's been really coming up clutch and raising and just really getting that first serve into play. And Tsitsipas can't do an awful lot with it. And I think I think Djokovic has definitely rescued himself from a bit of a disaster with that forehand.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he would have been ruining that if that had cost him badly. Tsitsipas serving now at 4-all. But yeah, there's some good points there as well. As you said, Djokovic has twice now under a little bit of pressure on his serve, and on each occasion he wins. And I think he won 3 points in a row on both occasions to get him out of a hole. Tsitsipas kind of in charge at this point at the moment. As I said, he's on the forehand. Oh, he shanked a backhand. There we go. Love 15. So now it's slightly interesting times for this. But yes, Djokovic there digging himself out the hole with some first serves. Also nice variety. 2 down the tee and 1 out wide, meaning possibly Stefanos wasn't quite sure where they were going. Of course, 2 to the backhand, 1 to the forehand. Love 15. So now it's suddenly intriguing, if not, we're not quite at the boiling point yet. So it's love 15. Stefanos goes down the tee, but I think it just clipped the net.
Djokovic did celebrate quite visibly, not like over the top or anything like that, but there was a very visible fist pump when he went up. I think Djokovic is now seeing an opportunity to break here to serve for the match.
Yeah, good point. He's got a second serve as well to look at because it clipped the net, and this time it went out. So on the second serve, clipped the net and went out, but the first serve, of course, clipped it and went. So it's love 15, second serve. Djokovic tries to go sort of quite big, but it's quite a good little. It seemed to have quite a bit of a kick on that serve, and Djokovic couldn't deal with it, and it's 15-all.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad serve from Tsitsipas. I think Djokovic is probably ruined that he didn't get that back because that probably was a makeable return, especially for him.
You can talk us through this point as well.
Djokovic chops it back into play. Backhand shank from Tsitsipas again. Djokovic is definitely knows to go to that wing.
There you go.
And it's 15-30 on the Tsitsipas serve. So this is very interesting now. I think if Djokovic doesn't break here, this is definitely going to a tiebreak. This is going to give Tsitsipas confidence, I would say. If Djokovic breaks here, if Djokovic gets break points here, it's going to be virtual match points. Has to be that. As Tsitsipas serves up the middle, Djokovic can't get it back into play, and it's 30-all. Tsitsipas coming up with his own clutch serving at this point.
Yeah, but he's got to do it a couple more points yet.
True. Yeah, he does. And there's been a challenge from Djokovic on the serve. Maybe to give him a bit more time to prepare for the next point, because that was definitely in. There was that ball. That ball was so far in the court. It was definitely a time wasting challenge. So here we go. Tsitsipas out wide on the serve. Djokovic tries to scramble that back in, but it lands in the tram lines. Another clutch first serve from Tsitsipas. Both players' first serves really coming to their rescue today. And this match has definitely been all about the serve for both players. It's been a very much serve-dominated contest. Probably why you haven't seen us describe too many rallies. As Tsitsipas goes up the middle with his first serve, Djokovic actually gets that back into play. Inside out forehand, Tsitsipas, who then is moving Djokovic around with forehands, trying to keep it away from his backhand. Forehand drop shot. Game, Tsitsipas, change of ends, 5-4. Djokovic is serving to stay in the second set. But as I was saying, very serve dominated. Even that opening game where Tsitsipas got broken, it was because he wasn't serving quite well enough at that point. Whereas I think, if those of you who are listening, maybe you don't know what's going on, you can't get access to the match to watch, and you're wondering why we're describing the points, they are generally fairly short because both guys are serving really well.
Yeah, indeed they are. At this juncture, I'm going to just mention the fact that we've got a series which are being pre-recorded right now. I've done 3 episodes already. They'll be coming out basically end of November and during December on some of the matches of the year. I spoke to Mark Petchey the other day. We did a lengthy one on the Australian Open final between Medvedev and Nadal. I've spoken to Pam Shriver as well about Serena's run. Serena Williams, of course, her run at the US Open, but particularly the match against Alia Tomljanovic. And I've also got an episode already done for the French Open quarterfinal between Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal with Owen from Popcorn Tennis. Those 3 have already been recorded. I've got Gil Gross as well. We'll be speaking to each other next week, and that'll also be out sometime in December. And we're going to be talking about Jannik Sinner against Carlos Alcaraz. So that's 4 matches I've just mentioned, Nick. What other matches am I missing, do you think, on the men's or the women's side that from this year that have been just outstanding?
So you've said Alcaraz Sinner, you've said Nadal Djokovic from Roland Garros, Serena Tomljanovic. What was the first one?
Yep. The other one was Medvedev. I spoke to Mark Petchey about Medvedev and Nadal.
Okay, yeah. I think you've got some, you've definitely covered some good ones in there. I would say if you want to, I think if you're going, are you just going Grand Slam matches?
No. I'm quite keen on, for example, I think another one that springs to mind would be Iga's final in Ostrava against Krejcikova. I think that was a very good one. The thing is, though, I do want people, and I can see Shuhi making a good point there about Medvedev Felix. I do want people that were in the stadium at the time. That's the ideal criteria, and I've got that so far with all 4 matches that I've covered. By the way, Djokovic on serve, and it's 30 love, it looks like. So it's quite comfortable for him at the moment, 4-5. But yeah, any other matches?
They're particularly memorable. Yeah, well, if you're going to get ones in stable from stadiums, then my WTA picks would be maybe a little bit more of a challenge, maybe just because they were from sort of 250 or 500 events.
Okay.
So
you can mention them.
Sorry,
you can still mention them.
Yeah, so obviously Swiatek Krejcikova, which is probably the women's match of the year. Other matches that I think get mentioned a lot are Krejcikova against Conservate in Sydney at the beginning of the year. You probably also would have gone with I could have gone with Angelique Kerber against Kaya Juvan in the final in Strasbourg. That's a match that was hyped up a lot when it was played. Went to a deciding tiebreak. Grand Slam wise, actually, a match that gets mentioned quite a bit by people who enjoyed it a lot was Naomi Osaka against Amanda Anisimova in Australia in the third round. That was a good battle between those two. So I would say if you want some additional women's matches, because I think you've got the best men's matches on tour right now. There's a great backhand pass from Tsitsipas on the run. That was excellent, right in front of Djokovic.
There you go, 40-15. Good pass, as you say. All right, that's great. I've got plenty of women's possibilities, but as you say, I'm trying to get people in the stadium. I may do Felix as well against Medvedev that I know Shahiri's highlighted, but I'll probably do about 6 or 7 in all, and I've got 4, as I say, done so far. So we'll see what I can do. 40-15 Djokovic, 2 game points to level it at 5-all, but as you highlighted, an excellent pass there from Tsitsipas on the backhand side. Djokovic goes long on the first serve. Second serve here, 40-15. Wasn't sure if he was going to challenge that for a second, but it looked pretty convincingly long to me. 40-15, 4-5, Djokovic, second serve. What's going to happen here? Goes down the tee, backhand return from Tsitsipas. Forehand now Stefanos, backhand Novak, and the backhand now he switches up to the forehand of Stefanos, and he goes into the net, and it's 5 games all. Again, no break point. That time, of course, it was much more comfortable for Novak, bearing in mind that he did face a break point a couple of games ago and he was 15-30 in the previous service game. That time, he won it fairly comfortably with a loss of just 1 point. 5 games all. It does look like we're heading to a tiebreak. Not necessarily, but if you are watching and you think this is not going to a tiebreak, let us know what you think in the live chat.
Yeah, I think it probably is, to be honest. It depends on... obviously, I don't think Novak's going to have a big enough dip on serve. Judging by that first serve from Tsitsipas, I don't think he will either. And if it does go to a tiebreak, I actually don't know who I'm backing in it. You would think Djokovic, but he's been definitely showing a little bit more weakness in this set on serve at certain points, which would make me think maybe Tsitsipas could sneak that second set tiebreak, but we're a couple of games out to make predictions like that at this point, as Djokovic blasts a return long for Tsitsipas to be 30-all.
Yeah, I think Novak will be a little bit disappointed this second set on his returns, bearing in mind how, the bar's pretty high when it comes to his returns, but I think he'll be a bit disappointed that he's not quite got his range right, as Stefanos goes down the tee with an ace and it's 40-love.
Yeah, well, as you were speaking, a stat flashed up on screen from the ATP showing that Tsitsipas's serves this set, 50% have been unreturned. He's serving so well right now, as highlighted earlier. Although, having said that, he's just literally put that serve into the top of the low part of the net. So I've completely commentators cursed him there.
Yep, and I've done the opposite with Djokovic because he's just to put in a very good return, so it's 40-15. So anyway, that's sort of the match of the year. On the men's side, I think we've got Felix Medvedev. I think Rafa Alcaraz at Indian Wells. That was a very, very high level. One of the things, and also Rafa Felix as well. Felix been in a couple of 5 sets that he's been on the wrong end of in terms of match of the year. Rafa Felix at Roland Garros is another one. One of the things that's a good one too there from Stefanos. So it's 6-5 now with another changeover. I'm going to get this sentence done in a minute, Nick. One of the things that I want to try and achieve as well. So if I've got if other than just being an amazingly dramatic, exciting match, basically that means 3 or 5 sets and maybe going, fairly tight. One of the other things that I really want as well, though, is quality, if you like. So just a very high level from both players at various points. That's where the Novak-Rafa match certainly squeezes in, particularly some of the levels that we saw throughout that match. And that's where possibly matches like, I'm thinking Kanepi against Sabalenka in New York, super, super dramatic, but possibly not the best tennis match we've ever seen in terms of two players just playing unbelievably well. I would also say that Nadal against Fritz falls into that category at Wimbledon, which was just a very dramatic match, but I don't think it was necessarily of the highest quality, bearing in mind that one player was just basically getting the ball in play to start many of the serves off, bearing in mind where Rafa was at with his abs. And I think Fritz's level was up and down, and really Fritz should have done better in that match and probably should have won. And Rafa was only really good for the first 3 games and the final set. So do you see what I mean? I mean, I love a really dramatic match, but I also would try and aim for top quality on both sides of the net as often as possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would say maybe someone else would disagree with me here, but I would say if you want to talk to someone who may have had a chance of being in the stadium, and I know it's ironic for this tournament, but if you're talking to a media person, they were possibly there. The WTA finals in Fort Worth, that final set between Garcia and Kasatkina both were bringing their best level. You have to sit through the first 2 sets where it was definitely a mismatch there, but you could go for that one just for the final set. In terms of that's the one from recent memory that stands out. Men's side I'm kind of running low a little bit because I think we've covered a lot of it, or I know them by reputation, and if you want someone who was in the stands, that kind of narrows it down a bit.
Novak Alcaraz Madrid was pretty good.
Yes, that was an excellent battle. That was an excellent match. I'm really looking forward to those two playing each other again.
Yeah, me too. Djokovic now leading 30-love, so he's just 2 points away from taking this match to a tie-break. Kasatkina Garcia would be great, but bearing in mind we need someone in the stands, and there was about 72 people there. That one might be tricky.
Do we know of anyone who might have been in the stands in Madrid?
No, but you can normally find a commentator or journalist or something like that, especially in Spain.
Hugo Duran might be a good option.
Okay. Hugo Duran. I'll check it out.
He's a Spanish journalist.
Yeah.
Has done a couple of interviews with Owen in the past.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll see. I know I've got 4 pretty much done. I've got to record the Gil Gross one next week. He was there for the Jannik Sinner Alcaraz match, which was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Welcome everyone to the Talking Tennis planning meeting, by the way.
Say again?
Welcome everyone to the Talking Tennis planning meeting.
Yeah, good point, Nick. Djokovic, by the way, is planning his way towards a tiebreaker here. It's 40-15.
That's excellent. We've had back-to-back excellent volleys from Djokovic while we've been talking, by the way.
Yeah, that one was pretty good, but I think the first one was even better, as you said. 40-15, 2 game points for a tie break. Let us know in the live chat how you see that tie break going. Should we reach it, of course. We'll see how Novak gets on here. Goes to the forehand. No, he's gone. Yep, he's got it. So it's 6 games all, and we are into a second set tie break. We will stop the Talking Tennis discussions regarding planning. We may not even talk about food or kits for the next few minutes because things are hottening up in the Turin Arena, which the name of which escapes me right now, but in a way that's probably good because I'll probably only mispronounce it. Anyway, 6 games all. I'll talk us through the first point and then we'll hand you over to Nick. 6 points, 6 games all. Love all, of course. Second set tiebreak. Tsitsipas to serve. Goes down the tee, but it must have just clipped the net. I'm pretty sure that landed in. So it's still a first serve. Showing a Jocko smash there from on Twitter on a picture there. Good work, Shrihari. 6 games all. Tsitsipas still on the first serve as far as I'm aware. We'll soon find out. Bearing in mind, we'll see how he goes on that serve. And I think He's got an ace, has he? Or did that go wide? I think it might have
Look,
gone wide, actually.
yeah.
Djokovic may be challenging. So this is either a fault or an ace. Let's find out. We're going to find out on the big screen. Let's see what happened here. For me, it's 50-50. I think it might just have landed in. Let's have a look. Oh, just in. Clipping the line. Doing that thing where they focus in on it. So it is an ace for Tsitsipas, as he does with both arms this time in a Hulk Hogan-esque way, trying to get the crowd going. 1-love. I'm sure the crowd will be keen for a third set.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, that's what they're paying for, right? They want to see as much drama as possible. Let's face it, much as we love sport for its competition and sort of purity of the contest, we also want it to be a contest.
Sure do.
And although they're making, I think this tiebreak could be a decent one. It's got excellent defense from Djokovic in the net before he puts that backhand volley away.
Excellent. You're right. Good net coverage there. And Tsitsipas was firing the ball at him, but he was reacting pretty quickly to it. And as a result, that's a lovely volley put away as well. So that's 3 volleys in very quick succession and away from Novak. And it's 1 point all. Novak to serve. Huge points now, of course, because this could either decide the set or the match. We'll see how it pans out. 1 point all. Novak goes down the tee. Lets it in. So there's another shank from Stefanos. Tsitsipas. Feels like about 72 shanks today. I'm sure it's not that many. But anyway, it's 1-2 because Tsitsipas is serving. All smiles all round in the Novak box, as you can imagine, because their man has held serve on his 2 points here. In fact, we've not had a drop serve there. Look at that shank there from Tsitsipas. Slow-mo.
The beauty of the one-handed backhand.
Indeed. Stefanos Tsitsipas, what are you going to do with this? Goes into the net with the first serve there.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does on the second serve. First gets it into the forehand of Novak. Novak now on the backhand to the backhand of Stefanos as they exchange backhands. Stefanos mixing up really well there. Can he put this one away? No, he can't. Ooh, that was close from Novak. I think, do they call that in? If it landed in, that would be sensational.
Tsitsipas challenged.
I thought it landed out, but surely the line judge would know better than me. Let's see if that landed in. That would be sensational.
Yeah, I mean, look, Djokovic gets that. He's earned the tiebreak.
He has got it. It just clipped the line. Look at that. It's a pity that there was a challenge involved, because in a way that took away some of the momentum of the excitement. But what a shot there from Djokovic on the backhand side, passing his opponent. Tsitsipas, I think, let it go, but it was a tricky one. Anyway, 1-3 now. Mini break advantage for Novak Djokovic. Yeah,
that was brilliantly earned from Djokovic as Tsitsipas goes along with that serve. Some great aggressive play at the net when taking the opportunity, and then that wonderful passing shot that only Djokovic could pull off, really.
Indeed, as Stefanos goes long with the forehand, it's going a similar way to the tiebreak in Paris Bercy, bearing in mind Djokovic is now leading 4-1, although on that day in Paris, Tsitsipas did have a very short-lived midi advantage at the beginning of the tiebreak. Anyway, it's 4-1 Novak. It's a double break advantage, which, bearing in mind how both players have been serving today, does feel like a significant one.
Yeah, for sure. I think Djokovic definitely won that break, won that advantage, but Tsitsipas, I think, was rattled by that afterwards and didn't quite play the point. He's not played a great tiebreak so far, has to be said. Tsitsipas,
no, he hasn't.
Has been wonderful.
And he's put a backhand slice into there. Novak celebrates 5 points to 1 now. That was huge for me. I think Stefanos did great on the return. He was big on some of those shots, but Novak defended really well. And in the end, it was a backhand slice from Stefanos Tsitsipas that went into the net. And if 4-1 looked pretty impressive in terms of difficult to break down. Look how, that slice into the net.
All right, Novak, don't need to celebrate yet. You've still got another 2 points to play.
5-1 now at the change of ends. For those of you just tuning in, or even if you've been tuning in throughout, it's been great to have you on board. We've hit some pretty high figures, actually, by Talking Tennis standards in terms of the people watching, which has been great. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 600 subscribers before the end of this tournament, and I think we're well on the way. We might even hit 560 before the end of the day, so that just leave us 40 short. So subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit that notification button. Anyway, Djokovic has got other things on his mind, not talking tennis right now. It's 5 points to 1. He goes down the tee, meeting the backhand of Stefanos, sticking to the backhand of Stefanos as they exchange backhands now in this rally. Djokovic on the forehand, Djokovic on the backhand, Stefanos still on the backhand. Now Stefanos is on the forehand. What can he do with it? Goes into the forehand of Novak. I think that just clipped the line, did it? Or did it go out? No, it went out. It went out. But maybe Stefanos will challenge it.
I can't tell. They're spoken. Oh,
someone has maybe overruled it. Maybe it was overruled by the umpire. I'm not sure. But either way, we're going to have a look at this point. Did it land in? Did it land out? I'm going to say it clipped the line. Let's have a look. Basically, if it landed out, Novak wins the point.
Pretty much, yeah. It looked like a good forehand from Tsitsipas, though.
And it
oh, yeah.
Good forehand, 5-2.
So that's one of the mini breaks back, isn't it? So
that is one of the mini breaks back, yeah. Tsitsipas to serve. He'll need to really win both of these. And clips the net, so it's still a first serve. Yeah, Tsitsipas, you can talk us through this point if you want, Nick.
Yeah, sure. So Tsitsipas is resetting after clipping the top of the net. Obviously, he knows he needs to win this point to keep himself in the tie break. So the nerves are high, and he's so to serve. He puts it in the top of the net, I think he was trying to go out wide. So it's second serve for Stefanos Tsitsipas. Doesn't take long. Goes up the middle. Djokovic can't get it back in court though. Looked makeable. Djokovic looks a bit frustrated with himself. He didn't quite swing through it how he hoped, and it's 5-3 to Djokovic. Tsitsipas has held on one of his service points. Even if he gets this next point, though, Djokovic still has 2 points on his serve. Tsitsipas goes out wide on the first serve, and Djokovic puts the return at the top of the net, kind of on the stretch. It was a good first serve. Djokovic may be a little bit disappointed with how those returns went, but he's still in the driving seat. It's on his serve now.
Yeah, if he holds his 2 points here on his serve, of course, he will win the match. He's only got one mini break advantage after Stefanos has just won 3 points in a row. Let's see how this one pans out. Novak to serve at 5-4. We seem to have a little break for one reason or another. Oh, here we go. So Novak is just bouncing the ball here at 5-4. He'll be desperate for a first serve, and it will put him in excellent shape in terms of this tiebreak and, of course, the match. Here we go. Where are you going with this one? You're clipping the net, but I think it landed in, so it'll still be a first serve for Novak as he takes another ball, pretty much confirming the fact that it did land in. 1 hour, 36 minutes on the clock as we near 10 to 11 here, Central European time. Novak to serve, first serve still. Let's see where this one goes. Goes to the backhand of Steph. Steph on the defensive big style. I don't think he's going to make that. And it's 6 points to 4, meaning 2 points. Novak Djokovic.
Well earned there. Again, kept his cool, finished a point, clinical. This is the Novak Djokovic we expect to see. This is the Novak Djokovic who is probably scaring everyone else in the field right now.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, a straight sets win will be very impressive. Not dropped his serve in terms of the match itself. And now here we are in a tiebreak. 6 points to 4. Novak, where are you going with this serve? You're going down the tee, and he's got it. An unreturnable, although I think Stefanos is he's challenging this, although I don't think it'll be enough. Let's check. Tsitsipas not quite come to the net just yet. I do think it landed in, but let's have a look. Of course, he's going to... Yes, it did land in. Pretty sure it did. Yep, indeed it did. It was pretty much a nigh-on perfect serve from Novak as he wins in straight sets 6-4, 7-6. Novak Djokovic off to a flying start. Arguably 1 foot already in the semi-finals with that victory. Probably just going to need one more win from these remaining 2 matches to progress as he thanks the crowd. He thanks the ground, and he thanks his team. Fist pumps all round. I guess that's kind of the Tsitsipas Novak sort of normality of the last sort of 3 or 4 years, really. I mean, as it turns out, Paris Bercy was the exception rather than the rule in terms of how close it was. Stefanos looking a bit disconsolate. And I suggested before the group began that it would be between Stefanos, Tsitsipas, and Medvedev as to who would join Novak in the semis. But actually, of course, Rublev winning today handily places him for that. What are your thoughts on the match and how that tiebreak panned out, Nick?
I think it was closer than the scoreline suggests. I think Djokovic definitely had the edge, but there were points where it looked like Tsitsipas might be able to assert himself. But at the end of the day, Djokovic played the big points far, far better. And definitely played a better tiebreak. He handled that situation incredibly well, like the champion that he is. Epic player. Hopefully everyone watching is also a Novak fan. Yeah, it was a good match. I would say it was a decent match, decent quality from both players. Maybe not the most entertaining, but you did get the odd decent rally, especially towards the end, as with some of those passing shots, on drop shots that we saw. So yeah, overall, really great result for Djokovic, and as you said, 1 foot already in the semi-final. I think he's. I think Andrei Rublev's probably already worried about having to play him on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think he was pretty concerned already, but today's performance and result will only add to that as Novak signs the camera. Listen, this match has probably followed a more similar pattern to the first two. I think today's match between Rublev and Medvedev was a bit more of a basket case, whereas the other 3 matches have all been straight sets win with just 1 or 2 breaks of serve. I like what Ghibli said, though, saying it's a shame about Tsitsipas couldn't make that backhand a bit more solid, as I also highlighted during the match. A lot of shanks from the Greek as well. I don't think he played badly. I completely agree. I think he served really well. I mean, he only lost his serve once in the entire match, and that was in the opening game. He was pretty solid, but Novak knew that at one point or another, the backhand would break down. I also agree with you, Nick. I don't think we're quite in Berrettini levels of concern regarding the backhand, as we now have 36 people joining us, by the way, to hear our analysis of the match. I know that Shrihari will be joining us at some point, so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Shrihari, what are your thoughts on the Novak performance this evening?
Yeah, I just tweeted it. I think it's a statement win the best possible way he could start this campaign, really. Clinical from start to finish, just faced 1 break point, was barely under pressure on serve otherwise, especially when he was serving to stay in the set twice. Obviously, he did go up 5-1 in the tiebreaker, but Steph did really well to bring it back to 5-4. There was that forehand winner, 2 really good serves that were unreturned from Djokovic. But Djokovic, being as clutch as he is, just slammed the door shut, didn't give Tsitsipas a chance at all. It was a serve plus 1, I think, and another, was it unreturned serve? And yeah, I think he got the job done. It was not at all close, really, I would say. I mean, of course, Tsitsipas played well, but I wouldn't say it was really close. I mean, Steph never had a chance to even take a set. So I even though it's straight sets, and I won't say it's one-sided, but at the same time, it wasn't close. It was just clinical from Djokovic. You could say, of course, the conditions, aided Tsitsipas to get a lot of free points on serve and get a lot of games by virtue of that. But Djokovic got that key break in the opening game. There was no looking back really from there.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Just a question here, and I'll put this to Nick as well, but I'll give my sort of thoughts on it first of all. Is he shanking because he's going for it more? Is it a risk thing? No, for me, it's more about timing. I think perhaps the speed of the court makes it a little bit more likely. I don't know. Perhaps it's also a confidence thing. I think those two, probably that's the 2 combinations that tends to suggest you might well get these shanks either on the forehand or the backhand, but obviously from Tsitsipas it's more likely to be on the backhand. Being a one-handed thing, I think Nick highlighted that as well, might make it more likely. But I think the speed of the court and perhaps the confidence thing, which I think he is, as a player all round, his confidence was sky high from January to June of 2021. I just think it's not quite where it needs to be if he wants to beat someone of the level of Novak. Any thoughts from you, Nick, on Tsitsipas or the shanks?
Yeah, I think Tsitsipas will be disappointed he didn't make the most of some of the opportunities he got, but to be fair, a lot of them was because Djokovic slammed the door shut. He probably could have played better in that tie break, but aside from those details, I think he played pretty well. The shanks, I think that just comes from the way he plays. I don't think they're ever going to go away, to be honest, even if he becomes an absolute, even if he solidifies other parts of his game, even if he can make that backhand a bit more solid, I don't see him ever stopping shanking the balls in his career, to be honest. I don't think he'll stop him winning a slam if things fall his way. I don't think that will be the reason. But I think Tsitsipas shouldn't be too disheartened. He can regroup. I think he's got a good chance to have a go against Medvedev. And if he treats himself like the underdog in that match, then I think he could, give himself a decent chance of causing another upset. But we'll have to see how it goes. Overall, Tsitsipas still a solid top 10 player, probably going to be elite for a while. We'll have to see sort of how the rest of this tournament progresses before we kind of really review where he's at as a player in his career.
Yeah, Shri, with this result, what does that mean for the next matches? Novak will play Andrei Rublev? No.
Yes, he'll play Rublev and Tsitsipas will play Medvedev. The winners play each other, of course. For me, it's Tsitsipas versus Medvedev that's more interesting because I just wonder whose psychology is more inferior in that match, because Medvedev just lost a close match, a match he thinks he should have won against a favorable opponent. Tsitsipas, this is, I think it is a pretty demoralizing defeat, especially after how close he came in Paris, right? And he comes here, he thinks, okay, I came close, I did a lot of things that worked. It's just about executing it in the key moments and being more clutch. But he doesn't get a sniff anywhere really in this match, and he's losing straight sets. That's his 10th defeat to Novak Djokovic, and I don't think any player from like the born in 1995 or after has lost to anybody 10 times. I really don't think. I can't think of any matchup like that, but obviously, we have Dimitrov, who's lost to Nadal and Djokovic. I think especially Nadal more than 10 times. Same with Raonic to Djokovic. Nishikori, of course, like 2 and 18 or something against Novak. I don't think anybody from the Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev, and Berrettini group has, really faced this much defeat. But that being said, so it would be interesting for me as to, or Medvedev would probably feel like, okay, he's not he's not going to be extremely confident coming into this match either. So yeah, that's the interesting match for me. But Djokovic is a Rublev. If Djokovic plays like this, I think it could be a similar result there too. And I mean, that match should, at this point, especially if it goes the way of Novak Djokovic, pretty much would decide the outcome as to if he makes the semifinal or not. I think he will. Right now, very much the favorite to win the group, I would say.
Nice. What are your thoughts, Nick, finally?
Yeah, I agree. Djokovic favorite to win the group. I think my interest will turn more to the Medvedev Tsitsipas match, which I agree with Shrihari is going to be an absolutely fascinating clash. I hope they put it on as the night session on Wednesday, partly because it means I can probably actually watch it. But I also think that deserves the star billing of the rest of the matches and sort of the middle part of the group. Yeah, middle part of the group, absolutely fascinating stage. Just to see where we set up for the finale on Friday. So yeah, great job from Djokovic. Excited for Medvedev versus Tsitsipas.
I'm on mute. Just regarding some of Novak's comments, he's just talking about the fact he's going to be playing Rublev next. Credit to Rublev today, third set tiebreak, a big win, and Novak saying there's no clear favourite before their match. What is the matchup like, Shrihari, between Novak and Rublev in your eyes?
On a court like this, I would say Novak is definitely the more favourable player to win. We saw that last year. I don't expect too much of a difference from that result, of course, unless Rublev plays lights out. He played, to his credit, he played well in Belgrade. Obviously, Djokovic was, he was AWOL in the third set. We could all agree on that. Got bageled. Was having those issues, with match fitness, especially similar to the one he had against Davidovich Fokina and Monte Carlo. Very similar loss in that regard. So yeah, I would still say Djokovic more than 65-35. I would say this time it would be a 75-25 in Novak's favor, really, especially if he's playing the way he's playing here. If he's returning as well. Rublev, I think, sure, he did break Medvedev thrice today, but that I would put that more on to an extent Medvedev's double faults. Plenty of double faults in the second set, especially in that final game. So I think Rublev is still not the strongest returner, and Djokovic is serving extremely well, faced just one break point, and coasted through most of the service games. I can't. If as things stand, I can't see any avenue for Rublev to really, get his teeth in that match.
Yeah, right. Let's just have a quick few minutes on the match earlier. Shrihari, you watched obviously on the stream. What's your thoughts now? It's obviously sort of 5-6 hours later. What are your thoughts on that match? Of course, with Medvedev losing out to his compatriot in a third set tiebreaker.
Yeah, like I said, that Medvedev would be disappointed because he thought, okay, that's probably the best way for him to start in this group of death, if you would call it that. Favorable matchup for him historically. Obviously, we thought the Cincinnati match was an outlier. It seems like it anyway, because Medvedev did run into the camera and whatnot. Right? He injured his hand, just was not 100% and mentally rattled as well. Rublev took advantage. Credit to him. Played some really good tennis too. But yeah, I would give Rublev a lot more credit for this win against Medvedev. I think he did a lot of things excellently, especially this serve out wide from the deuce side of the court, and he did see that Medvedev was not really changing up his return position, and Rublev just took advantage of that, and he executed it perfectly. Really, in the only time he did lose serve was, I would say, Medvedev got quite fortunate with 2 let cords and a double fault in that game where Medvedev did break back in the first set where Rublev served. But otherwise, Rublev was mostly really solid on his own serve. Medvedev was just not, only towards the end of the set, but again, was too little, too late, was just playing catch up. But it's interesting for me, how Medvedev, what kind of mindset Medvedev takes into the next match. I won't say it's going to be, he's not going to be completely demoralized. He lost his first match in 2019 to Tsitsipas, which nobody expected. I think he was 5-0 against Steph at the time. Much better player on hard courts, especially indoor hard courts at the time. So he did lose, and he should have beaten Nadal arguably, but then it's not like he got demolished there either. So it's interesting to see what kind of mindset he brings to this match against Tsitsipas. But I still think that the back of his head, this is a matchup he has mostly dominated. He knows exactly what he needs to do, that's for sure, to beat Tsitsipas. He's done that a lot of times. Tsitsipas, on the other hand, has won 3 of their last 5, and the most recent match that they played in Cincinnati. He also knows what he needs to do to beat Medvedev at this point. Probably not the same extent, but nonetheless. So I think that would be the match of the day for sure. And I'm assuming that will be the first match on Wednesday. I'm not sure if the schedule's out yet.
You think Novak's will be the first match, or do you think the Tsitsipas one will be?
I think it would be Djokovic and Rublev. That would be the second match, because usually that's what happens. The winners of the first match, their first matches play the evening session of their second day, right? So yeah, that's what I expect.
They're quite quick in bringing out that out. So I would imagine the next few minutes or hours. So I remember after the matches last night, within a very short space of time, we already knew the lineup for a couple of days later. So I guess they'll be getting that out as soon as they possibly can. Listen, Nick, I hope I'm not keeping you on too long, because we've already been going for more than 2 hours, but we didn't get the third set that we hoped for. Any thoughts on this group in terms of where Tsitsipas and Medvedev are at, in terms of pretty much the loser will be going home on Wednesday? Who do you favor in that match?
Currently, Tsitsipas, I think he played a better losing match today against Djokovic than Medvedev did against Rublev. I think he's got previous with beating Medvedev in expected places. Medvedev, obviously, we've talked about him against top 10 players. Tsitsipas has the form from Paris, Medvedev doesn't. So I think I would back Tsitsipas to win that one. And that would put Medvedev in trouble. It wouldn't automatically eliminate Medvedev. It would, because I think if Djokovic won against Rublev, am I doing this right? I think if Djokovic won against Rublev, then it would give Medvedev a shot of still making it if he then beat Djokovic in their final match. But I don't see that happening. I think in terms of how the rest of the group's going to play, I think it's going to be Djokovic is going to qualify. He's going to win all his matches, and I think second place is going to come down to the final day contest between Tsitsipas and Rublev, which, given their previous history of having some epics, could be an absolute barnstormer for the crowd. And I get why sort of the logic maybe Shrihari has of, they usually put the two winners against each other. I tend to find that the ATP finals, they tend to be a bit more savvy around the most interesting matches for the crowds, especially in the evenings and for TV. So I think the smart move would be to put Medvedev Tsitsipas as the night match. If that aspect of promotional scheduling comes in, Medvedev Tsitsipas on Wednesday night, and then Friday night Tsitsipas Rublev, depending on the outcome of the Tsitsipas Medvedev match. If Medvedev wins it, then Medvedev Djokovic should be the night match on Friday.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because it's not always been the case. Last year, I remember Medvedev and Zverev won their first matches, but they played first. Then on their second day, and Sinner played Hurkacz in the evening because home favorite. So it really depends on the TV ratings and everything.
It does surprise me that Felix against Rafa isn't the night match tomorrow, because as a scheduler, you would think you'd put them all at night. But then I suppose if you want to sell day tickets, you've got to give them an opportunity to see a big name such as Rafael Nadal.
Yeah, I also think that they'll probably put on Rafa once during the day. If they do have the opportunity, it just depends on whether they have this opportunity or not. But I think they'll put Rafa on twice at night and once during the day, and they may well do the same with Novak. But if it is the case that the winners will both play a night session on Wednesday, then it'll be Novak, of course, coming second. As I say, I expect to find out in the next few minutes. If I keep dipping into Twitter to find out what the order of play will be on Wednesday. We do know the order of play, of course, for tomorrow. We know that we're going to have Rafa against Felix first, followed by Casper Ruud against Taylor Fritz in the evening, both of which you'll be able to see here live on Talking Tennis. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit that notification button. Nick, what are your thoughts on Rafa against Felix? Prediction?
Felix.
Okay.
Easily. I think Felix has got the better in-court form. I think he's much more comfortable indoors than Rafa. I would say that regardless of the momentum the two had going into this. But I also just think, the last two Rafael Nadal matches that have happened, he's had a very competitive first set and then faded in the second and couldn't come back. It faded in the second, or from the second set onwards. And I don't see that pattern of play being something that's easily rectified. So I'm going to go with Felix.
Do you agree with that, Shrihari?
Yeah, I would favor Felix as well, but both of them are in a similar spot at the moment. Not to the same degree, of course, but Felix usually, I mentioned this when I think it was before the Nadal versus Fritz match when we had Miles and Vanchier, covering that match for Talking Tennis. Felix usually he has these runs where he's winning matches in a row or winning majority of his matches during a given period, and then he has this loss where he just looks flat. He tends to have a few more before he kind of gets back up. and he cannot afford that here because he's playing the best players in the world consecutively. It's not a position he's been in before. But then again, on the flip side, this is his best chance to sort of get back up. A Nadal who is just at the moment quite lackluster and missing that fire in his belly. The first set or any set, tends to go his opponent's way, and it's pretty much curtains. We saw that against Tommy Paul. Very similar. It was 6-7, 1-6 in the last two sets of his last two matches. So it's a very similar trajectory and pattern that we're seeing. And he was also pretty much outplayed by Borna Coric and Tiafoe. So Nadal has definitely lost a lot of his aura at this point. It is dissipated that he did build this year, where you just simply cannot beat him until you've actually defeated him. So yeah, I think I would still favor Felix. If it goes to a third set, and let's say Nadal is the one who takes the second set, that would be really interesting for me. But I would still say Felix takes that in quite similar fashion. I would say the second set would be the tiebreak set, but he would end up winning, I would think.
Yeah. I think this run of Rafa's, of course, there's only so long that I think the health issues and the lack of match practice issue, if you like, there's only so long that will carry, if you like. So what do I mean? Well, I think we can pretty much say that he is fit. I think if he was anything other than fit, he wouldn't be here. I don't think he would have gone to Paris. I know that he was sick in the third set. Fair enough, that can happen. But I do think he's pretty much fit. I think if there was any issues with the abs, he wouldn't put at risk his Grand Slam beginning to next year. As a result, it's very different if you're about to play the US Open a week before. Hi, Miles, great to have you on board as well. So I do think he's fit. I do think the match practice is a real issue, but it's still he still played 3 matches now. It will be his third match, tomorrow in the space of sort of a week or two, plus of course plenty of practice. So I do think that if it becomes 4 defeats in a row, then we're looking at something a bit more serious, if you like. Listen, let's get to the second match that's going to be going on tomorrow night. You've got Casper Ruud against Taylor Fritz, perhaps both of them surprisingly winning their opening matches. What are your thoughts on that match, Nick?
I'm very interested to see how that one plays out. I think Casper Ruud has stopped the rot with that win against Felix because he wasn't in the best form coming out of the US Open, very much losing more than he was winning. So to beat Felix in the way that he did has got to boost his confidence and suggest that he may be getting his mojo back. That's going to make it a very interesting contest against Taylor Fritz, who is coming off beating Rafael Nadal. Seems to be very comfortable indoors, or at least in this point of the season. Very solid player. That one's tougher to call, I think. If you'd asked me before the start of the tournament, I'd be saying Taylor Fritz. Now I really couldn't confidently pick it. It's 50-50 for me. Which one's going to win that? I think maybe if we go, I think it's going to depend on who's taken more momentum from their opening group wins. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna stick my neck out and pick a winner. But I think it's going to be a good battle, at least in the first set. And I'm not sure who exactly the matchup favors. But I would say it's really going to depend on who takes the most confidence from their win on Sunday.
I think Fritz takes it. I have him qualifying from that group along with Felix. Of course, that's still a possibility, I would think. If Fritz is to win, he pretty much would qualify. It depends. If it is a close 3-setter, maybe he'll have to wait for, a little longer. But I think he played extremely well yesterday. I cannot poke at anything and say, oh, he should be doing this better. But one of the biggest issues is that since these two have not played against each other, it's hard to sort of envision that matchup, going into their clash tomorrow. That being said, I would wait. So Nadal versus Felix is the first match, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So I don't know what that means for the decision of who ends up qualifying first, but yeah, I have Felix and Fritz winning tomorrow. Uh, Felix versus Fritz. I mean, Felix obviously is a must-win for him. Uh, and Rude versus Nadal again. Yeah, we could, if Felix does end up going 3-0, it could be a situation where we probably have a player qualifying with a 1-2 record, I would say.
Yeah, and of course, today's result does mean that Tsitsipas can now not make world number one under, I think, any circumstances, from what Jose Morgado has just tweeted.
That is correct.
I think he had to win all of his matches, right, Nick?
He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, something, a point I forgot to bring up, but yeah, that's ended his chance of becoming world number one, at least at this tournament. Maybe he'll win the Australian Open and he'll steal it, but I don't. I don't think he's going to be too bothered about that. It was a bit of an outside shot, but this match ends up being bigger in the grand scheme of things than we thought.
Yeah, right. Any thoughts on Tsitsipas not now obviously getting there? And I mean, Rafa would have to win the tournament as well. So it looks like we're very, very likely to have Carlos Alcaraz finishing the year as world number one. Chewy.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. If Nadal does lose in straight sets tomorrow, I imagine that he is out of the tournament tomorrow itself. So I guess Carlos will be rooting for his friend Felix for that. Putting aside his the fact that he idolizes Nadal, of course, but I mean, I think he will see that anyway. I saw that happening. It was just too uphill, for either of these scenarios. It'll be Tsitsipas, especially Tsitsipas going 5-0. Nadal winning it too. He's just not enjoyed so much success in this tournament, and this has been a really weird period for him too. He's just looked a lot scratchy. Does want to play, does want to get matches under the belt. I think pretty much everybody is. It would be pretty historic to have an ATP year number one outside the Big Four for the first time since 2003, right?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I think he's obviously deserved it. I've still yet to see any information on tomorrow.
I think it was 2002. Did Federer in 2003 is number one? Probably.
No,
did.
that was Roddick.
Roddick, right?
Number one in 03.
Okay, I'll trust your memory there. But wait, so Federer, Federer was 2004, 5, 6, 7, 9. Yes, you're right. So it was since 2003. So nearly 20 years. It's crazy. We saw that mold started getting broken with it started. I want to gloat here as a Medvedev fan, but it started with Medvedev cracking the top two, being the first outside the Big Four since 2005 to do it. Last year, when he did crack the top two after winning Marseille, if I'm not wrong, and then he stayed there for pretty much all of the rest of the season, but 1 week. Was that 1 week? I think before Rome that he dropped out, but then he came back, got back into the top two, and then of course he did get to number one. There's not a very pleasant stint there, 16 weeks or so, and it's Alcaraz who takes the reins immediately after. So we are definitely seeing, at least here, I mean, it has to happen at some level. At the Masters level, we're seeing quite a bit of changing of the guard. You have the next gen winning a lot of these Masters titles. You have them, cracking the top two. Casper Ruud cracked the top two as well after the US Open. Alcaraz became number one, very likely to end here at number one. Now, all that's left is, for someone to step in and consistently win Grand Slams, which is also something we're probably not too far away from, right? How long are Novak and Rafa just going to keep gatekeeping? I would imagine for not too long. But yeah, Novak, well, we don't know, right? It's just if he is playing Australia, that would be ominous for everybody because of everything that transpired this year and then the level he's showing, right? I still have him winning the tournament, of course. But yeah, obviously when he was absent, Nadal swooped in, and it's really yet to see someone who's consistently dismantling these players and winning Grand Slams. I think we're not too far away from that. So interesting transition phase in tennis. Djokovic could very much be, in some ways, probably a much better version, like the Agassi in 2005, if you want to say.
Sure. Nick, any final concluding remarks before we bring this show to an end on either tonight's match or the tournament as a whole?
Yeah, I think I've said what I said about tonight's match. Tournament as a whole is now in a very interesting place where it seems to be very much Novak Djokovic against the rest. I'm looking forward to seeing who the rest turns out to be. We definitely seem to have we have one group that it's going to be a scramble between 3 players for second place. And we probably have another group that's currently a scramble between 4 players for first place. So if I'm being generous towards Rafa. But yeah, I'm interested to see how tomorrow plays out, so we get a clearer picture of it is. But as it stands, I would be very surprised if Djokovic be very surprised if Djokovic loses a match this week.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, Srihari and Nick, it's been great having you on board. I've got a little tweet there from Craig O'Shaughnessy. I'm hoping to have him on the show at the beginning of next week to review this tournament. He's there in Turin, watching pretty much every single ball. So it'll be great to have him on board. Be speaking to him probably on Monday evening. I think that's the plan. So that'll be something cool to look forward to. Got plenty of other things coming on this week as well. We'll be doing pretty much daily shows called the 10 Minutes, which will be hitting your screens most mornings in Central Europe. It'll probably be the middle of the night in North America, but they'll be there for you as you consume your pancakes and bacon and whatever else it is that the average North American eats for breakfast and coffee and juice. So that'll be there as well. We'll be covering pretty much every single match throughout this tournament. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Srihari and Nick will be back again very, very soon. Thanks, guys, for dropping by.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah, it was
great.
I had a great time covering this, especially, considering the result. I enjoyed the tennis too. Looking forward to being back soon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been great having you two on board. For the rest of you who did join us today, and there's been hundreds, and we may even have gone beyond the 1,000 mark, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll be seeing you very soon. And thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.